Good evening, my name is Helen Anthony, I'm the chair of Committee on Finance, and I call on order a regular meeting on Tuesday, June 17th at 5:39 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Anthony,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor,
Here.
Counselor Angebaugh,
Here.
Councilwoman Graves,
Here.
Counselor Sanchez.
Present.
We have 5 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank Ruth Cuccio for coming from the city solicitor's office. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
For coming. I also have other counselors come here. We have Counselor Peterson, who can join us at the table. And then we have.
mind moving a little bit.
Counselor and we have Counselor Escobar. So thank you so much for coming.
So noted.
With that, I would like to. I'm gonna have to ask everyone to settle down. It's very exciting in here. Okay, so I'm gonna ask if we can take our appointment. Agenda item number 6 out of order. May I have a motion?
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Hancock, seconded by Councilor Graves. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? With that, we are going to, Madam Clerk, please read, and I want to thank our clerks too. I always start my meeting and I'm so sorry, I forgot to say.
That's okay. Thank you.
So would you please read agenda item number 6?
Communication from His Honor the Mayor dated May 20th, 2025, informing the honorable members of the City Council that pursuant to section 302B and 203 of the Providence Rule Charter of 1980, as amended, he is this day appointing David Leach of 100 Swift Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02904, the Board of Censors for a term to expire on the first Monday in March 2031, and respectfully submits the same for your approval. Mr. Leach replaces Ms. Burnell, whose term expires.
I appreciate you holding on, and Mr. Leach, if you would stay seated for a minute, I understand we're having technical difficulties and that we may need to take a brief recess. I'm so sorry. Also, we're going to take a little recess just for a couple of minutes while we correct our technical issue. Thank you for working. I was hoping that that's an which one of these do you want? That's so I want some candies. Also, we can get this. Which will be around, does it? I mean, all special. It's a really hard to do that, but being the sheriff and stuff, a lot of it to get them. When we have a survey. Oh. That's how oh, nice. So what's the fun with you saying that? See if I get
Ready?
Madam Chair, we're all set.
Oh,
We're
all
all set.
right.
Thank you.
We are back on the record. Mr. Leach, if you would mind coming to the end of the table and stating, and we will swear you in.
Please raise your right hand. You swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And please state your name for the record.
David H. Leach, Leach.
Mr. Leach, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're very excited to have you. And you are here because you are going to be appointed to the Board of Canvassers. So I was just wondering if you could give us a brief overview of your background and why it is that you'd like to serve on the Board of Canvassers.
Well, I've lived my entire life in Providence. My parents were born in Providence as well. I lived in 3 zip codes. Right now I'm living in the north end of Providence. I have been involved in various forms of community activities, both social justice, social action, and organizations, nonprofits over the years. At the moment, I'm on the board of Providence for Community and Justice, which I've been on for about 20 years, dealing with disadvantaged youth and forms of bias and prejudice. And I saw this as an opportunity to serve my community, because I've always been for Providence. I just think it's an extension of all the kind of things that I've been working on. Very anxious to make sure that everybody who can vote, hopefully will vote, and that we don't do anything here. I don't think we ever will, but here to in any way limit that right, as in some of the places. So this is an opportunity for myself.
Well, I will say, and I'm going to open it up, that we are so appreciative. And I had no idea until I looked at your CD this evening that you were involved in so many activities. We really appreciate your engagement in the community, and I think, you know, you're perfectly positioned to add to the Board of Canvassers.
I'll only add that I just now, we have formed a North End Neighborhood Association, and there had not been one. And so my name ended up on all eternity at the Secretary of State's office, was one of the board of directors. So I'm involved in my community.
I'm going to open it up to committee members. Anyone have, yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Not really a question, just a comment. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve in this very important role. We're seeing a lot of attacks, especially at the federal level, to election officers and board members. So we definitely appreciate folks that are willing to step up and serve this very important role. I personally don't know you, but Councilman Royes speaks very highly of you and highly supports this recommendation, and everything that I've seen checks out. So I'll definitely be supporting this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Councilor Ingerball.
Wait, not a question, but also just a comment. Thank you for this amazing array of work that you've done in the community. I'll shout because the thing is so loud. I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you've done in the community and for being willing to serve. I'm really grateful that you're willing to do this, and we'll obviously be supporting you. And just echoing that Councilman Royce has nothing but glowing things to say about you in the North End. And if he can vouch for you, that means a lot. So just thank you so much.
Thank you.
for being willing to serve.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Graves.
The same. But I also had a question, because your face is so familiar, but I don't know where I know you from. I think it might have something to do with the Jewish historical. I don't know where I know you from, but your face is very familiar. And haven't been associated on the outskirts or within, and a lot of these things, it must be from one of these things, but it's good to see that you are here and share all of our interest in keeping people engaged civically and getting those people out to vote. My question is, what can you do, or what do you think you bring to it to bring more people out? Because less and less people are voting because of discontent going on, so.
That's a big problem. And I really couldn't give you a slick answer. I think that, in the same way that you need to just educate young people of the importance of voting. And a lot of times people feel like, well, my vote doesn't matter, and
Yeah.
it does.
Mhm.
So I think it's partly education, and partly making it convenient. I think, early voting has had a big effect on that. So I think it's just a continuation of those things, and educating in school, civics.
Yes, absolutely.
I just wanted, thank you. Just wanted to add my voice in essence of support of your joining the Board of Canvassers. As Mr. Leach has been a staple up at the State House and advocate for many of the causes, especially when it comes to the population of vulnerable communities, but also as a leader and also someone that I've seen over time from the Jewish community who really have embraced and really have been a voice for many in the city of Providence, and commend you for not only your public service, but also to being willing to serve in the Board of Canvassers. Because I know it's a time commitment, especially when there's special elections or the elections. And it's, as we say, it's public service because in reality, you don't get paid a whole much. But it is very honorable for people to serve, especially in the Board of Canvassers, to ensure to serve, especially in the city of Providence, that are validating elections. So thank you.
I thank you, and I'm going to strive to do my best. To make sure things run smoothly and get people out of the way.
Absolutely.
Maybe it isn't quick.
I think you will, as I know you were also part of the Common Cause
Yeah.
board and with Phil West and many others over the years. So
My only remark is, we're both not that old.
Exactly.
Back. But yes, thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? With that, we
Make
have
the motion, we approve number 6.
Second.
a motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Vanderwall, all in favor? Aye. All opposed. Mr. Leach, we will be recommending your approval when the council next meets, which is, I think, that's sort of July. Oh, yeah, next, June 26th, so we will be, with your approval then, and that will be the actual final vote.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. May I be excused?
Yes, we did. Okay. Yeah, I have a motion to take agenda item number 2.
Second.
A motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor? Aye.
So many other.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please read agenda item number 2.
An ordinance of the city of Providence approving improvements to the Providence Water Supply Board distribution system, including but not limited to the replacement of public and private side leg services, all attendant expenses, and approving the financing thereof by the insurance issuance of water revenue bonds and notes, therefore in an amount not to exceed $26,200,000.
Please raise your right hand. You swear on the path you perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing. And please state your names and the titles for the record.
Sarah McCray, Finance Director, Providence Water.
Well, thank you so much. We see you quite often. Thank you very much for doing that. And would you please tell us what's going on with this ordinance and where we are you come before us for this same project, and I know this must be new topic one, so if you could just please tell us a little bit about it and where you are in your overall scope.
Sure, so good evening, yes, this is our request for the third tranche for the third year. Every year we're eligible to ask for funding. So we're seeking authorization to borrow 26.2 from the Infrastructure Bank. The funding is intended to support our accelerated lead service line replacement program. The terms are very favorable as they have been the past 2 years. It's a 20-year term. 0% financing with interest rate and 49% principal forgiveness again.
I'm sorry, can I make? There's some reason where. We're very able to do this. It's easy. Pretty turn that on, unless we have. Maybe we can turn that on. You know what, that's.
I don't think that's the other. You need to give us their.
Right.
Property.
Yeah. Let's keep them.
You seen it, Richard?
Yeah, sorry. No.
Yeah.
We're gonna turn care of it.
Couple mile.
I'm so sorry.
Take a look at that.
You know that?
Do we actually get it out?
We gotta- No one watched it. So we shut up.
I hope John is taking notes.
John, in charge of it.
All right.
I love that.
You see, I have laser.
Yes.
Yeah. I know they heard 20-year term, 0% financing, and then what's the rest of it?
49% principal forgiveness, so about 12.8 million will be forgiven.
Okay.
So these are the same terms that we had for the previous two. So we are, seeking to go for the third tranche, and continue to go forward.
Okay, and can you just briefly tell us where you are, where this particular tranche of money will be used? I can't remember how you organized the project citywide, so if you wouldn't mind talking about that, that would be great.
Yeah, so this particular tranche we haven't designed yet, so. To date, I have a list of where we've been to date. We've been keeping it to what they call the CGS areas.
That's better.
Much better,
Yeah.
thank you. So, any area that meets that criteria we've gone to, and we've tried to locate in where we have the highest density of lead services. So, kind of throughout the city, and we also have services in Cranston as well.
And so where have you concentrated thus far? I can't remember.
I couldn't tell off the top of my head, to date, we've done a fair amount in Ward 13. Ward 9, I don't think Charlie was there, so
10 and 11.
10 and 11 as well, yeah.
Good. And you don't know exactly yet where you're going to be using this.
We're still in time, so the money, the first tranche will be done we'll use it up in the middle of, at the end of fiscal year 26. So June of next year, and then the second tranche will finish up at the end of 26. So, but what happens is, there's only 5, this tranche comes out every 5 years, we're in year 3 of that. So we're hoping to get the next 2 as well, but we don't know if that money's gonna be available. So we wanna take advantage of it while it's still available,
Okay.
even though we haven't finished spending the first 2 tranches. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, thank you. Committee members. Yes, Councilor Anderson.
Just a quick question, because you answered most of them already. The funding is federal, is that why we're not sure that will, okay,
Yeah, it's federal money.
And it flows through
At
it.
one point, when the Trump administration first came in, he paused all funding, so the infrastructure bank wasn't sure. But as we understand it, I believe the infrastructure bank actually has this tranche.
oh, great.
They don't believe they have the 4th or 5th. But again, I don't think that money throughout the entire country has been released yet.
Okay,
So.
Yes, Councilor Graves.
When you're having all these different meetings, you've been meeting all over the place. And people are getting information that, oh, well, they said I was kind of available, but I haven't heard anything. So what is the criteria? Because we had one, who was that? Yeah, yes, and that wasn't that long ago, and people are asking me, they said, oh, they said, you know, that I was eligible, but I haven't heard anything. So what is the method that you're doing to get in contact with people to tell them yes, you know, or no, or whatever?
So. I'll tell you, I'm not the subject matter expert. My big picture understanding is if somebody's within a contract area, I think we do mailings, I believe, we try to do calls. We do those public outreach meetings that we speak about. So we try to match the communication method with hopefully the area that we're doing the work in. So as best we can. Now, if there's specific people who are in a contract area that aren't being contacted, we'd like to know that for whatever reason. Like we said, we're trying to use that CGS tool, but if you look online right now, that CGS tool doesn't exist. But we still have the criteria based on that. We still have a mapping that goes with that, and we're sticking with that for right now.
If I could, yes, go right ahead.
Okay, as of now, you said 4 boards. My ward is not one of them, Shelley, did they mention those? No, neither one of our wards.
No,
So,
but I was gonna speak on that, so, yeah, no, I agree.
okay, so, you're having these meetings in advance and then you're telling the people this but you're still working on 1 and 2. So these other ones, like my
Yeah.
ward, will probably be this 3rd pot.
I hope so, yeah. I mean, ultimately, the goal is to replace all of that services. That's the goal. I
Okay,
mean, we actively are working, we just got another $300,000 to do lead services. The mayor of North Providence got that money, so it's wind grant money.
mhm,
So anytime we can take advantage of getting grant money, we will. Now, with those awards, I'm just saying, I just read quickly who we've done based on, you know, this list that we have. Again, we're trying to do it so it's the highest concentration for now, so it's the biggest bang for our buck. And trying to get those first, and then eventually hopefully get all of the services in our entire distribution system.
and you're talking,
Go ahead.
you're talking, what do you consider a bunch? What is the minimum amount? Are you talking 20 to 30? Are you talking 5 to 10?
No, it depends, it's the criteria of, you know, there might be a street that every house in that street has a lead service.
Mhm,
That would probably be higher in a ranking than say if it's like 1 or 2 on the street.
okay.
But again, it's ultimately we want to do everybody lead service, that's the goal.
Is it possible to get the list you're referring to? I mean, is that possible for you to send that to us?
Yeah, no problem.
And we
Yeah.
can circulate it.
Yes,
I'm gonna go to Counselor Sanchez and Counselor Peterson, and then I'll go down to further.
Thank you. I guess just to build up on that last question is, who's the best person, to contact regarding, this program? I know we received, emails in the past, Chris Hunter, I think. Is that the?
Yeah, we can
our
talk to
main
Chris, so we
point of
have
contact? If you have
Kathy
any
Yellowman.
more questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we get their contact info would be,
Mhm.
Okay,
we should have Chris's, the Kathy person.
yeah,
And then my last question is, I don't know if we've spoken on in the past, but do you guys have it built in your, like projected budgets to pay off these, loans? Is that just from your guys' general fund
now it's built into our rates.
Yeah,
onto the rates?
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So does that mean it's, driving rates higher in certain?
This bonding comes out of our infrastructure fund, and in the rate plan that we have submitted before the PUC right now, we did not raise that level of funding there. And we are able to incorporate this funding into it, so for this bonding, no.
Cool, last question, the rates are the same for the whole state, correct? It's not different rates per municipality that you guys provide?
We have, way our rate structure works is we have it for our retail area, which is in Providence, Cranston, North Providence, Johnston. we have a retail rate, we have a commercial rate, we have an industrial rate.
Okay.
And then we also service folks on a wholesale, so like Bristol County, Kent County, Warwick, they get a separate wholesale rate. They treat their individual customers, we just give them water on a bulk sales.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Peterson.
Just to follow up on what Councilwoman Graves had said, when we had the community meeting that engaged our three wards, mine, Ward 14, Ward 12, and Ward 4. We had over 100 people attend. One of the things that I'm sure that you're probably following up on right now is that our neighbors are saying that they have not gotten any sort of response since then after being told, yes, you qualify, yes, you're in the available area. And then kind of, it's just kind of been a wait and see. And so I think where we have a little bit of a holdup is understanding if it's as a result of there isn't enough money or it's just happened so that, where the projects, there's too many and we're having a hard time keeping up, or what, what might the issue be, but in extension of that, some of the feedback that we've received, or at least I've received in community meetings, is that, the opportunity, while it was there for Ward 14, at the time, they're not aware or sure whether or not they're able to kind of come in again, knowing that the time, the opportunity has kind of come and gone for this particular area, so we were trying to figure out where, if Ward 14 residents, for example, say, hey, I just realized that I could have done this, can I still apply? First, the question is, where are we with letting people know that have already been able to do the initial work? What's the status of that and how do they get involved, or are they related information? And then two, what happens to people that wanted to be a part of the program that weren't able to in that first go around in our particular areas?
Okay, that last one, maybe I'll answer the last question first.
Sure.
Or try to. The folks that were interested, but they just haven't heard since they said they were interested and they signed an ROE. Okay, assuming if they said they were interested and they were in a contract area, then eventually they'll get their service replaced under this contract. So we have 4 active contracts right now. If they were just outside that contract area, at some point you have to limit that contract area. If they were just outside that, we will get there eventually. When we'll get there, it could be next year, it could be 2 years from now, but hopefully the goal is we'll eventually get there and replace that. So the folks that have said they're eligible, have them reach back out to our program manager and let them know that they're interested, so that it flags us and we can figure that out. I forgot your first question, I apologize.
It was, you essentially answered it,
Yeah, have them reach out. Again, I think when people first hear, they might be outside an area that was doing work. So they're like, yes, sign this ROE, so we have it, and then we'll eventually get to that area. So, and we try to, like I said, and there's, I don't know the exact criteria, but we're trying to do the biggest bang for our buck first, and then eventually we'll get to, hopefully get to everybody's services. So.
So in addition to providing the list, when you send an email, I don't know if it'd be the clerk who can pass it on to us, but the contact information for the program manager is going to be very.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Councilor Pichardo.
Thank you. I just want to add, and also, as a board member with, Councilman Oscar Vargas, just wanted to commend your work also in Providence Water for, the 4 contracts out in Ward 8, 9, 10, and 11. And, we just recently, just for the board's sake, we just recently, received for our, request, a participation list by wards, as of May 12th. And, we can have Carissa send it to the board members. And I just wanted to just share with you also that from our experience, from Councilman Espinal, Councilman Harris, and myself, in working with Providence Water, when we received the information about how wonderful it would be to remove the lead service, we had the community meeting, so we engaged the community. We also did a mailing, And so our rate has been in the upper 68 to 78% of participation within the constituency with the homeowners and the non-owners, which is landlords. That's where Providence Water has somehow been having a challenge.
Yeah.
And so that's why you probably heard also a bill that was at the State House
Yeah.
to try to see if we can allow Providence Water to go in there. But through the efforts of outreach, I think for us, this is a savings for Providence residents of over, I think it's like $7,000
Yeah.
per household, that at one point homeowners or even landlords had to pay. And so at the end of the day, as it was indicated, the money's gonna run out. And so right now, from my end, I'm trying to get as many as homeowners to participate. When you don't see black tarp in front of a home, it's because they haven't responded or they haven't participated. And so this is our opportunity to go door knock. And for future districts that are going to receive the money, this is the way to, in essence, engage the participant, because the ultimate goal is to reduce the lead service. And at the state level, we've been fighting this issue for over 20 years. And this is the opportunity that we have in the city of Providence. So just wanted to highlight that success rate so far, but also an opportunity for us to engage our constituency once this money is approved. And as you may know, Councilman Vargas and I are the sponsors of this and board members. So we'll continuously promote this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just echo, sorry, I really appreciate the efforts of the council people in the wards. They're a big help. And a lot of times too, what'll happen is people will probably forget about it until the backhoe show up. So that's probably a good time if you're around that area to knock on people's doors, say, hey, look, your neighbor's getting it done. You've got to let service, they're here, let's get it done. And we can, like you said, the program manager can get those ROE signed pretty quick. So there's no better time than when that backhoe's sitting next
Oh, yeah.
door to get somebody to do that lead service.
I've done that. So.
Yes. Councilor Espinal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Pro Tem basically touched on every point that I wanted to highlight, but I'll just reemphasize the help, how helpful the Providence Water was when we go for our first community meeting. They were there, and they brought literature, and they also made phone calls. Chris Hunter was extremely helpful because he will let us know exactly where they will be that day or the week before. And he also offered opportunities for us to walk with them and door knock if we wanted to. So the system that we had in place does work. And my ward was the first one to get done, and it worked out really well. Good. Yeah, so apart from that, I'm just thank you for being proactive and borrowing this money at this time, even though it's not needed at this exact moment. But the way things are with our federal government, I think that borrowing this and having it secure is actually the way to go. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, I think we've had a lot of very positive comments. We appreciate you coming. I have a motion. Motion. Rule number 2. Okay, motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Graves. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. We will be recommending approval to the council. Thank you so much. Thank you. May I have a motion to take agenda item number 3 out of order?
Sorry.
And a motion made by Councilor Antipas, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. Madam Clerk, would you please read agenda item number 3? Thank you.
Resolution endorsing and urging passage by the General Assembly of House Bill 2025 H-6135 and Senate Bill S-1018. An act relating to alcoholic beverages retail licenses.
Okay, who we have to present on us this evening? Madam Clerk, who sponsored this bill? Oh, I'm sorry.
Can speak to the original.
Oh,
This is from Albert Moritz.
Can you go ahead and present on this?
I can.
I'm happy to talk.
And also, I think Councilman Peterson.
I'm also a co-sponsor
Oh,
of
you
this, so.
should. I love that. Thank you so much, Councilor Peterson.
This, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys did all the nitty gritty on all of this, but. We have a new business, Mexican restaurant that has been opened. If you look at, my Ward 14, Ward 4, there's a little bit of a triangle where Branch Avenue and Douglas Avenue meet. And one restaurant is in Ward 14 and the next restaurant is in Ward 4, which happens to be Tulum Mexican Restaurant. This particular restaurant, previously had many different iterations of businesses in there, all with an opportunity to have a liquor license available to them. And the last business that closed essentially just let everything lapse. And so what we're doing here is allowing for this opportunity for this family-run business to also be able to have a liquor license available to them as well. It was sponsored, Representative DeSimone is the sponsor of the State House for this particular resolution, and Councilor Royce did a really great job of working with the new owners and getting to know them, and also bringing them to his neighborhood meetings for people to know the new business in town. And they have a lot of great response from my neighbors as well, and I'm happy to support them on this endeavor to also be able to maintain what has always been a continuation. This is just a continuation of what's always been there, the opportunity to sell alcohol while at a family restaurant.
Yes, Councilor Sanchez, thank you very much, Councilor.
I'm very familiar with this business owner and I highly support this resolution. My only question is, do we know where it's at, the State House?
The senator passed it.
It's not already passed it.
I think it's tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, so I think if we could, if it does pass the committee, we could send a letter or statement saying that it passed committee and it's most likely will pass on the floor.
Yeah.
I think it's important to get that communicated as soon as possible.
Yes, Councilor Underwood.
I have another quick thing that maybe we should also have to send it to the governor, because he gets to sign it, and he's the only one that's off the list. Should I send this to you to sign it?
Yeah, that is a great.
So maybe we should also, we don't have to amend this, but just like you,
Yeah.
make sure we also send it to him. We should see it has a good suggestion, good recommendation.
Any other comments or questions? Is there a
motion, we approve number 3.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And so, Miguel, we can go ahead and send that letter, at least to let them know we're gonna recommend approval of council.
Great.
Thank you so much, I appreciate that. All right, with that, may I have a motion to take items number 4 and 5 out of order?
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? We're not going to take them together, but, they have, please the agenda item number 4.
Resolution authorizing approval of the following amended contract award by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21 through 26B5 of the Code of Ordinances. Downs Construction Company, $7,370,986, Department of Public Property.
Okay. We have a familiar team to the table. Okay, if we can swear you all in.
Raise your right hands. You swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please state your names and your titles for the record.
John Lane, Director of Public Property.
Crystal Lumber, Deputy County Inspector in Bush, sir.
Joe Sandy, Director of Project Management, Downs Construction.
Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Who is going to start, talking about what this item is for?
I can actually move on if I can, Chair.
Thank you.
So the first item on the agenda or the discussion for tonight is amending the contract with Downs Construction. We are adding an additional $904,295 to their contract amount. As we were getting ready to close out this contract and continue working on school capital projects, it was determined that there were several soft costs that were incurred by Downs Construction Company at the request of the former Director of Public Property, former administration and RIDE and PPSD to obtain and procure some of these soft costs, which are included in the packet here, on behalf of the city. Downs did perform that task. The city did reimburse Downs for those costs. However, we ran into a lack of board contract and supply authority to continue to pay Downs for their work provided on the school construction project because the amounts paid for reimbursement were drawing off of the PO that was intended to pay for Downs services. And so we are amending this award to cover the reimbursable costs that Downs had procured on behalf of the city back in, 2020, 2023, so that we can make them whole on the total value of this contract.
Okay, may I just, if you don't mind, can you, so this amount that you're asking for will, be reimbursable?
So all of these costs were procured by Downs and the city has already reimbursed them for these costs.
Okay.
They do go towards the housing aid that we submit to RIDE and they are reimbursed us when we get the debt service payment. So in our operating budget, there's a revenue for school debt construction reimbursement revenue. These costs are reimbursed as part of that reimbursement.
Okay. And I'm just wondering if you wouldn't mind just going through the additional services that you have listed. I think it's page 13 of our packet.
Yeah, certainly. I'll refer to Joe on that one.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Yes, nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So and a little bit of background, so this all occurred, in probably early in 2021, where there were some discussions. And I will refer you to your packet to page 16. At the time, when we were requested to provide this service by the previous administration and Director of Public Properties and RIDE and PBSD, we actually went back to Westwood Law, which is your legal teams, confirmed that we can be reimbursable through our contracts. And there is a letter from them that states that we do. And at that time, their opinion was that they didn't need to embed it into the contract. But they failed to recognize that our purchase order had been depleted without doing an amendment to the contract. So that's really why we're here tonight. But to go through each individual item. So Spaziano bridging documents we were asked to go out and hire an architect to develop a set of documents to assist the city with going out and procuring design build services for Spaziano Elementary School. Windmill, same thing, bridging documents. We were asked to procure services with an architectural firm to provide schematic level documents that were again used to procure a design build firm. Both of those were done through a RFP and through the MPA. So we had multiple architect firms responding and we selected the most qualified firm for that. With Windmill, RIDE requested that the city and PPSD develop a set of standards for FF&E. And they requested that we utilize an architect to do that, which is that $22,650.
In fact, that's in even, what is that?
Furniture, fixtures and equipment, so tables, chairs, bookcases, those kind of things. Anything that's not affixed to the building. And then in early 2021, we were also asked to do a project labor agreement study, which we did. And then again in 2023, we were asked to do another one for the phase 2 and phase 3 projects. And those were commissioned through a local legal firm that did that work independently. We were asked to provide commissioning services for the early school projects that were going on in 2020 and 21 and 22. That commissioning agent is the third party, it's independent. It goes in and tests to make sure mechanical equipment is working properly, as well as windows and doors and those kind of things. So those items are being installed and tested properly. And then I think the final one was just that within our contract, we're allowed to charge a fee of 5% for any additional reimbursements that we submit.
I'm sorry, what is a project labor?
So a project labor agreement is an agreement that the city does not sign it, or PPSD. It's an agreement that You look to see how much labor is needed to construct a school project in this example. And determine if the workforce, is able to do it, or if you need union workforce to do that. And in both cases, the study concluded that because of the size of the buildings and the complexity of it, the majority of the contractors would be, project, based, or I should say, union-based, contractors. It's a study that has to be done by state law, which we did. We provided that back to the city and said that our recommendation is for the contractors, each individual design, build, or construction manager has to negotiate with the local unions, so there's no strikes, there's general work rules that apply across the board, holidays that across the board, those kind of things that it really dictates.
Council. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you for being here. Sorry to. Good to see you. I have a few questions.
Yes, please, Lori.
I guess the first is, and I think you said this, but I just want to clarify, why didn't we amend this in 2021 when we knew there were gonna be such significant increased costs? Do we think the overall project budget was gonna stay the same and we found that it's not, or like, why didn't we?
No, I think that previously, I think that the city at that time, administration and public properties relied on the communication from West Group Law, again, that was page 16.
Yeah.
Where it says you don't need an amendment, but I think their terminology was a legal amendment modifying our contract. And what happened is that I think as Crystal pointed out clearly, is that our purchase order, that 900,000 that was supposed to be for our hours, went to go pay for those reimbursables and depleted our purchase order, so there's not enough money to go through. So they didn't recognize the fact that it needed to really be an amendment, a change order, right? Even though it was a reimbursable, so that the PO would be increased so that you could fund the project properly or pay the project properly.
Okay, no, please. And then, you had said that like the last administration and Ryan requested these things. Did they make those requests in writing? Like, do we have those requests?
There's probably a lot of old emails, and what happened is that initially back in 2020, when we first got involved, a lot of those projects were way behind schedule, and they weren't. And I have to thank this committee and the council, you guys have been unwavering in your support. As you remember, it was warm, safe, dry, right?
Yeah.
Doing roofs, painting, and the council at that point said, no, our kids deserve better. So a lot of those projects were really stalled, and they wanted to get things moving, and one of the biggest thing was getting windmill back online so that you have swing space, right? So that we can make and go in and do these major projects so that we can move the children into those kind of spaces. That's really where it happened, is in a lot of meetings, that were occurring between the city and Riot at the time as well.
I'm just like, yes, please. Where are we in finishing this project? Like, why is this coming up now? Like, what was the trigger? Did we just run out of money in the PO now? Is that?
That's effectively what the trigger was, yeah. So I think I've alluded to this in several other previous finance committee meetings, that the financial aspect of these bonds had previously not been managed by the finance department.
Yeah.
And so some of these things are things that, had they run through our typical procurement channels, would have been caught in 2021. But they are now coming to light in 2025, and we're trying to rectify them and do the right thing, which is publicly document what has happened with this contract. So in a perfect world, and what would happen now is if there was a change order or a request for something to happen above and beyond what was in the scope of the contract and it was award, a letter would be submitted to the Board of Contract and Supply. It would follow the standard procedures, and then we would amend the PO. However, one of the things we also have to keep in mind is this was September of 2020, like the world was in a very tricky spot. Many of you who were on the council remember what Board of Contract and Supply looks like at that point in time, and trying to procure things. And again, we were in a rush and we were in a pandemic. And so, well, it's hard for me to say, yes, I would have done this. I intend to believe that I would have done this very differently had this been under the finance department. But unfortunately, it was not, and these steps were not taken. And so now we need to rectify this and codify the actual transactions that happened.
Right, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So you quickly touched on this. So the current purchase order for Downs's work, has the mechanisms in place, to not run into the same issue?
Certainly, yes. So up until, I want to say this fiscal year, purchase orders for capital improvement projects were not issued through our standard ERP system, and they did not necessarily run through the standard purchasing procedures we use for any other city purchases. One of the reasons for that is that a lot of these bonds are issued through Providence Public Building Authority and as we've discussed, the relationship between the city and PBA is a gray murky one that we're still kind of working through the creating process with procedures for. So at that point in time, I believe there was an assumption that perhaps because this was, again, reimbursable, we weren't necessarily paying Downs for Downs work, that a change order wouldn't be necessary to the contract because they would have a mechanism to get a PO for additional funds 5 years ago to pay Downs above and beyond this contract. Those mechanisms have been closed this fiscal year, and there is no way to get a PO from Downs through finance without doing this, which is getting board of contract and supply approval and or city council approval where necessary.
Just quickly, thank you, Crystal. Just to quickly build on that. So when was this first discovered? Back in March, it looks like.
So this issue with the reimbursables were brought to my attention this spring, and as soon as we had kind of ticked and tacked and figured out what we needed to award correctly, it was brought immediately to the Board of Contract and Supply. The letter is dated May 9th, so it's been.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a member of this committee, it's puts us in a difficult position to vote and approve of work that was done 4 years ago. But I think with Crystal's explanation and Downs being here and sharing their side of, I mean, we kind of gotta do what we gotta do with it. It's the harsh reality.
Yes, Councilor Graves.
I agree. But I would like, you said it might be in emails. Where are the hard copies? There gotta be a hard copy somewhere of these bills, of these things, and I would like for us to have those documentation. All in front of us. Is this supposed to be in
The
here?
bills are.
I see the bills, but
Oh, no, it's not email.
Yes. the requesting stuff. I mean, not that I distrust, it's just that.
Yes, certainly. I would not have been on those correspondence, but I can ask maybe like our IT director and Joe. I think you would have been probably the one who directly received the information and guidance on how to proceed.
If we could get those, I would appreciate it, because us approving things, we really should have all the documentation, all the things that we need, so that we can justify if somebody comes and asks these type of things. So if we can find those, then I think that's what we need to do. And I'm glad we got something in place. I agree with, I felt present that we have something in place now that we can continue on the right track. And I am aware that 2020 was a horrible, that time was horrible. And you may not be able to find one, but could we just give it our best shot and having somewhere where we can go and say, yes, see, this is what happened, this is what was requested, blah, 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 blah. I think we need to all start covering our backsides, just we possibly can. That's all.
Yes. And Councilor Graves, you finished with the.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Actually, mine is nothing next one. Okay. All right,
Chair?
yes,
Yeah, I mean,
Council Petrardo.
Thank you. Just a couple of clarification or at least questions, in terms of the statement that has been made in essence that, can you just reiterate, when you indicated that the process is not, ran through the normal process because of COVID? And, can you just elaborate a little bit of what was that process? It was just more of no procurement or no transparency on it?
So typically with a standard city purchase, there's a process in which you submit a requisition through our ERP system. It goes to our purchasing department. They vet the backup for that. They ensure that all the necessary approvals have been in place. They review that PO, they submit it to finance, finance signs off on that PO, then it gets released back to the department. And that's the process in place now for all capital improvement projects. Prior to this fiscal year, the process had been such that a project manager would submit a PO directly to the purchasing department. The staff member of public property at that time who oversaw a lot of capital projects would release that PO. And that was it. There was no confirmation that box approvals had happened. There was no confirmation that finance signed off that the funds were available. There was no confirmation that any of this had been procured in accordance with the state's processes and procedures. And so what we are finding as we begin and are instituting these procedures are that things that had kind of slipped under the cracks before are coming to light. And, you know, it is, you know, our responsibility to codify and correct what we can while we can. Previously, I would say that if this had come up 4 years ago, this would not even be in front of this committee. They would have just issued another PO to Downs for $900,000 because they would have had a legal opinion saying they could do that from this. So we are definitely making progress and have made a ton of progress in this fiscal year. Which is why things like this are coming up now, 5 years after the event.
So in light of that, are there any other projects that you evaluating or even reviewing, knowing that the process was not as you indicated?
Yeah, so we're not, we have gone through, on the school side and done a thorough audit with Mr. DeSanti. And the public property team on what encumbrances need to be executed, what awards need to be extended, what contracts need to be reviewed, and that is happening. And you'll see those letters continuing to come to the Board of Contract and Supply. I think there's some set to go, you know, in the upcoming weeks. For the city capital improvement projects, I have sat down with our capital budget analyst with every single project manager to talk about every project that they're working on, talk about how it was procured, how they got those POs, that all their existing POs that were issued under the less than ideal process have been closed and reissued as real POs in our ERP system and are being tracked in the same way that any other city process is being done. So I'm really very optimistic that this is the last of these things we have to bring to your attention. But again, I don't know what I don't know, and what I can say is that I've done as much digging as I can so that when the CIP we proposed in the mayor's budget in April for the city capital improvements was every line in that capital improvement plan has been thoroughly vetted, every project has been discussed, and every procurement has been done for.
If I may.
Yes.
And that's from what year to what year? From 2000?
So.
What year? Are the questionable or going back?
Our first formal CIP for the city of Providence ever was adopted in 2020. So, you know, we are really looking at those larger bonds that are issued in 2020. We have all of these school projects that were signed on an MOA with RAD in 2019. So it is somewhat of a 5-year period in time that we're looking at. My approach on the city side has been to go based on each bond. So I'm looking at each bond issuance, what those bond proceeds were intended to be spent on, how we spent them, and what's left and how we're planning on spending the remainder.
Yeah.
So the period in time, I would say, is about that 5-year period.
So you have mentioned also the PBVA and how creating policies and also procedures.
Yeah.
And early on, as I can recall, there was a program that was being used that documented a lot of this stuff, which was it Monday.com? Is that being archived? And if not, why not? 2, doesn't the PBA have their own sort of governing structure that you don't have to come up with the policies, or we? Is that they're like a quasi organization? So how do they interact with in terms of creating policies, or if they don't have the policies?
So they have.
Can I just ask, is the PPA responsible for, does it have any involvement with this?
No.
Okay, so
But
you're
it was-
just asking in general?
Well, early on, she had mentioned in terms of an example, you mentioned the PBA,
Okay,
and that's why
got it.
Yeah.
I'm tying into it in a sense, whether even with documenting, overall, this is about the documentation.
Yeah.
As it was asked, but also seeing that we were forced to go into digital during the pandemic and since 2020, that how is this being preserved or documented? And from what I recall, coming into the city council was that Monday.com was that or is that platform that in a sense was sort of used to document a lot of this stuff.
So Monday.com is still active. We are working on a replacement strategy for that which would reside on city servers so that we all have access to those units backed up regularly. What I will say is Monday.com is not and has never been an ERP system. It is not meant to be an accounting and financial system. It is a work order task management.
ERP is?
Enterprise resource planning. So it's not an accounting software. It's not how you're gonna, you can't physically enter a PO into Monday.com. You can put in a task to assign someone a PO, you can upload documents, but it's not intended to be a fully functioning accounting system. And so, when it comes to archiving that, it's really just archiving the data that lives in Monday.com because there's no database and records that's associated with that. That's just not how the software works.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to use Lawson, which is the city's accounting software for, so that we do have a database and an accounting software that is recognizing and reporting all of these transactions. When it comes to the rules and procedures between PBA and the city, what I will say is that the rules and procedures that PBA has codified is that they utilize the city's Board of Contract and Supplies for procurement. So in my opinion, if that's PBA's choice, which they have chosen to use the City of Providence's Board of Contract and Supply procedures, then that infers that they need to follow the city's procedures of utilizing the Board of Contract and Supply, which is what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This clarification.
Yes, thank you. Okay, any other comments on this? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Councilor Espinal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'll make it simple. So this is 4.5 years old. Right? No statute of limitation of this is still active. It's. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that there's
How we run this by along the department to look into that,
that if we need to, well,
because of the fact it's 4.5 years old, like they were looking at something that has no legal standing or value.
I mean, I do believe the city authorized Downs Construction to do this work on our behalf.
Okay.
So I don't believe it, and I can reach out to the law department, but from everything I've seen, there was an official at the city of Providence who said to Downs Construction, please issue this work. And then Downs got an opinion from Westlaw that said, we're allowed to do this for the contract. So what should have happened is when the city of Providence authorized Downs to do this, they should have immediately submitted a change order before the contract and supply for that work. They did not do that. And so, you know, I don't know that legally we'd be in a great position to defend not paying Downs for work that they did. Just because we didn't follow our administrative procedures.
Councilor Espinal, are you finished?
I'm all set.
Okay, yes, Councilor Graves.
No, I was gonna say, we have a lawyer sitting right beside me. Do you have any?
What you said made sense, but I'm happy to further look into it too and confirm that.
Yeah, because we have no invoices on this, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure, they're attached in the.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all included in the pack.
With the legal opinion, get the letter from us, what's,
And
so. Yeah.
with the comments, I would also like to say, if we promised them that, and they did what they were supposed to do. I don't think we should be welching out on it, even though it happened before our time. You know, so I understand where you're coming from, because I was thinking the same thing, but if we owe it, we owe it, and we have to pay, you know?
But it's $7 million that I need to balance the budget.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it's going.
This would probably not be the space.
It's just a joke.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Councilor Pacheco.
Yeah, just to be clear, in essence, so the request is, what is the total amount that's being requested? For just for the record, if you could just say it. And then also, does that mean also that was this included in the budget to pay out within this budget that we are?
It's about, it's.
Yeah.
it's
Bond, out of the bond money?
Yeah.
Can you just explain that just real quick?
So, the request is to amend the original, contract with Downs Construction by an amount of $904,295 for reimbursable expenses procured for and paid by Downs Construction on behalf of the city of Providence. These funds were included in the project budgets and are most likely already being reimbursed to the city on our behalf for the debt service payments and are all funded by the bond.
Okay, thank you, I just needed that clarification. So that way-
So is there, are we finished?
Second.
All right, the motion to approve made by Councilor Ramshaw, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Madam Clerk, would you please read it, agenda item number 5?
Resolution authorizing approval of the following contract extension award by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21 through 26 B1, 2, 4, and 5 of the Code of Ordinances. Downs Construction Company, $18,914,190. Department of Public Property.
Thank you. I'm just looking through the packet to see where one is and the.
Yeah.
The last two pages. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, who is going to present on
I can start off, to prevent us from being here 5 years from now, explaining what we just went through. We're in the process right now of phase 2 and phase 3 of the school, reconstruction. Downs Construction's, current contract expires December of this year, so we're asking for an extension to that contract. With the additional cost of $11,543,000. That would bring the total contract up to $18,914,000. And we bring us through 2028 at that point. Once we get into phase 4 of the contract, projects through contracts, we will put that. That's going to be an RFP for the sent out for phase 4. But this is going to close out phase 2 and phase 3.
I think we already had this before us. Is anything else? It's like there's a good one, just not sure. I'm sorry, so the contract was originally supposed to expire when?
December of this year.
Okay. And we need to extend it so that Downs Construction can just finish out phases 2 and 3.
Correct.
Okay, and this money wasn't originally, we did not pay down because we thought projects were going to be complete by now, is that correct, by December?
No, so subsequent to Downs, receiving the award for the bid on the original contract for the phase 1 projects, additional schools were submitted to RIDE for additional project scope. For additional schools, for the phase 2 and 3 schools, which are Spaziano, Auxiliary, Authority, West Broadway, and Stewart, RFP, and Mount Pleasant. Those were new schools that were added subsequent to the 2019 MOA, which is the phase 1 projects that Downs had begun working. So while they were working on phase 1, officials with the city of Providence had, and PPSD and RIDE had said there are additional schools we want to invest in. They directed Downs to please begin the process of scoping out what that work would be to do. So they've gone through the process of submitting all of those projects to RIDE, getting them approved, and those projects are underway. So now what we're trying to do is rectify and codify the fact that we don't have a contract term that will last the duration of the projects that Downs has already done work.
And I would imagine that it would, for consistency's sake, that we would want Downs to continue.
I would imagine it would be cost prohibitive to change OPMs at this point in time. For example, one of these schools, Spaziano, is scheduled to complete this next fiscal year. So changing an OPM at this point in the game would be cost prohibitive and would significantly delay the projects.
Okay, councilors, yes, Councilor Hannibal.
Thank you. Thank you for this. Guess I have a few questions. One is, since this is adding just like a little bit to each of the schools, are there any shifts from any of the other projects that are, like, is this a change to any, like, the overall budget of like which schools are getting which types of investments? And if yes, can we see the overall phase 2 and 3 and what's changed? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So, and the answer, I think the short answer to that is no. So the original RFP that Downs had responded to was for the 2019 MOA projects. That's what's known as phase 1.
Yeah.
No funding from phase 1 has been cut to fund phase 2 and 3. Those have been funded independent and are considered separate phases of the school construction process. In order to rectify this, as the director alluded to, we are and have already, I was just looking at it yesterday and this morning, the RFP for phase 4 is in the works so that we can ensure that we do go out to bid for phase 4 OPM construction services. However, the decision to do that when these were submitted back in 2022 and 2023 did not happen. They decided to continue to extend with Downs, partially because we were under contract with Downs for the phase 1 work. So by right, they probably should have issued an RFP for phase 2 and 3. Had somebody respond to that, maybe it would have been Downs and then proceeded in that way as we're planning to do with phase 4. But that is not what had happened. They had kind of used the existing contract as a mechanism to retain Downs to make and submit the applications for stage 2 and stage 3. And now we're in a position where we need to complete stage 2 and stage 3. And trying to change OPMs at this point in time would be, it would delay these projects and potentially put us in a, a budgetary constraint, because my 5-year projection is assuming that as we pick up debt service,
Yeah.
we're picking up housing aid, and so if we don't get that pickup in housing aid, we are gonna have a budgetary gap.
Yes, so we're gonna, do we have details on the, like, per project, how the OPM determines, like for Kazarian, the fee is 1,381,329. Do we have like the details in here, like what drives that fee per project? Maybe that's a question.
Yeah, that's a-
Yeah. It's a few questions, yeah.
So yes, it's actually a great question. I've worked, very hard with Crystal. We do a staff matrix, so we lay out each what the staff members are, so there is an actual cost per month for each individual project. It's based on sometimes complexity, but mostly like time. Like how much time do you need for each project?
Can we have that? Can we see if that's in
Yeah,
writing?
that was part of the backup that we.
Okay, for the,
Yeah,
we
but
have
that-
like a 1-page situation, but maybe
No.
we'll take that idea. Like,
We had it last time.
Yeah.
last night, but.
yeah, it's a long, like it's multiple pages of spreadsheet that we could try to make it into, summarize it a little bit better. But that's how we come up with it.
We had it last time, we were talking about this.
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
Broke down,
We've done everything.
yep, that's correct, awesome.
I'm sorry, did we do, when was that, the space 4?
I don't know what it was. They
We don't have it in front of us.
had all the schools on.
For some reason,
Yeah, okay, that's okay.
Are you finished with your?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yes, anyone else have some questions? Yes, Councilor Peterson.
Thank you. I wanted to just ask, the reasons why a proper procurement process wasn't followed for the phase 2 and phase 3, and if you continue with that. I understand that you said you probably should have done it a different way, it's done, but I'm trying to understand why we didn't go out for bid and do all the things that we're supposed to normally do as part of the rules.
Yeah, certainly. I think part of it was a misunderstanding of what the contract with Downs actually encompassed. I do think that the people who made that decision at that time were under the impression that the contract we had would have covered the scope of the work to continue on to phase 2 and 3. I think another major consideration is the expiration of some of these bonuses. So I know, for example, when we were in here talking about phase 4 last year, there's a big rush to try to get these projects in and submitted to RIDE in time to be eligible for these bonuses. And without me being at the table at the time to make that decision, my hunch is that it was a combination of thinking they had a contract that would cover the scope of this work and they were okay, and we gotta get this in so that we can be eligible for the bonuses. Let's rely on the team we have in place to get all the submissions in for us so that we can make that happen.
Yes. In terms of the reimbursement rate on these, I think we were at a 90% before. This looks like it, and I might be wrong on what I'm asking, but it says the project will be eligible for 80% state reimbursement upon completion. Everything on the RIDE website, and I'm sorry, it's not the RIDE website, the school websites says they're eligible for 90% reimbursement. I'm very, very, very on top of these things because my neighbors are requesting this of me as a rebuild. So I just wanted to follow up and see why there's a 10% disparity, or is it two different things that I'm talking about?
No, it's not two different things. So there's a base amount that you're eligible for, which for these projects is the 80.9. This is
82 or 80.2.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay, so there's a base reimbursement depending on the year, because as the city becomes more wealthy, our reimbursement percentage goes down. So it was at 82%, now it's 80.2, so it's a smaller reduction in our base amount. However, the bonuses that I alluded to are what bring it up to 91%, and those what have the expiration date.
Yes.
So that's why you may see the two different numbers reflected, is whether or not the project is eligible for bonuses would bring it above that 80.2 or 80.229.
Okay, so are we still eligible for those bonuses? Is that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and for planning purposes, we always use the base rate, right? So, because that's guaranteed, the bonuses, I think we're certainly gonna be guaranteed for Providence as well. But they're sometimes paid a little bit later or over a period of time. That's why we always use 80% for our planning and financial planning, at least in cash flow.
This question will come up at the committee meeting, the next one that you have, like, the guarantee, so. Thank you.
All right, questions?
I make a motion to approve number 5.
I have a question.
Okay.
Second. Okay. All right. Council Pichardo.
Thank you. Just on the total contract amendment, it says 11,543,000, and then amended total contract, that's 18 million. That's the addition that's going to, or the extension.
So the extension is the 11.5.
Mhm.
And then the total value of phase 1 through 3 will be 18 million.
Okay.
So the 7 million is in reference to the existing contract that was in place.
Right, thank you. And this is more particularly towards, well, in my ward, which is Lima Stewart. Is Lima Stewart part of that? Up to the phase 1, 3?
Yes, yeah, it's one of the ones there.
One of the, yes.
Yes.
And as far as the work for the phase 4, they're not included in here.
Correct, yeah, so all of the phase 4 work is going to be going out to bid. The director is actually working on that RFP right now. We're reviewing the financial terms of it.
Well, just for clarity, with the exception of RFK, we've moved to phase 3.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
yeah.
RFK
So
is
just-
now considered part of phase 3, which is why it's listed on here as part of phase 3 and.
Right, thank you very much for the clarification.
Yes, Councilor Singh.
Thanks, Roman. I think Crystal just answered it, but just to confirm, so Downs Construction has no involvement so far in phase 4?
With the exception of RFK or any sort of capital revolving fund projects, which are not bond funded, they are assisting with those at no cost to the city, but there's no other phase 4 work that we have engaged them to do and have explicitly said that we will be going out to bid for that work.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Back to my motion. Motion to approve number 5.
Motion to approve made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming again.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read agenda item number 6? I mean, what?
An ordinance of the city of Providence approving the financing of the Mile of History project by the issuance of appropriation obligations, therefore an amount not to exceed $6,200,000.
Okay, we have the big team here. Welcome. Hey, would everyone mind raising their hands and being sworn in?
You swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And please state your names and your titles for the record.
Jason Saul, Civil Engineer, Department of Public Works. Lawrence Mancini, Chief Financial Officer, City of Providence.
Karen Grandy, Troutman Pepper Locke, bond counsel to the city.
Dan Vogler of the Mile History Association.
Liz Moran, President of the Mile History Association. Thank you all so much for coming and, Chief, did we have a motion, do you have a formal, substitute
I
or?
do, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and members of the council, if you would allow me to set that up for you. So that-
Yes, I would
and
appreciate that.
I had checked in with yourself as well as the court. So, once again, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. So this is a project that has initiated, as helped with the Mile History Association, working in collaboration with the City of Providence's Department of Public Works Engineering Division, as well as eventually working with the Rail Infrastructure Bank. Previous to this evening, we have been moving through this process since the beginning of the calendar year,
And that process involved, working through the city's Department of Public Works, identifying the documents, filing an application with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. And then eventually having outside counsel prepare a borrowing instrument that would be worthy of consideration by the infrastructure bank. Prior to this afternoon, that instrument is in your packet as an instrument that will require your approval to go out of committee in the amount of 6.2 million. Financing would be financed over what could be 3 years prior to financing at an interest rate that would be subsidized interest at the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank by 33% or 1/3 of the market rate, whatever the market rate would be at the actual time of the borrowing. As the document that's in your packet this evening was prepared by Ms. Grandy's firm with a presumption that it would be under what's known as annual appropriation, which means, while that appropriation is considered to be valid each year as the budget is being considered, and debt service being considered, that annual appropriation will be necessary. That differs than what would be typical under a general obligation bond law. Ms. Grandy brought to my attention this afternoon that in checking with Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, some time ago, perhaps 5 years ago, a one-time only arrangement,
Correct.
they pursued and received state authority to lend money to the institutions, municipal governments, under the premise as if it was a general obligation bond, without the work of a general obligation bond, i.e. you would have what's known as a general obligation bond, which means for investors, for those bonds, it would not require annual appropriation authority in order for it to be valid for repayment. It would be presumed to have been a bond issue, GO, issued in that form, and therefore it would not only accomplish that, but it also would serve on the premise that it would give you a lower interest rate, as is always the case when you borrow under general obligation. Earlier this evening, we heard the Water Supply Board, they were here. We could never borrow as well as they did, although they borrowed under the infrastructure bank, because that program funded with federal dollars is a different program altogether. And it encourages lead service replacement, in many cases, not only zero interest, but the waiver of the principal sum in the borrow. That is not this program. This program comes under the traditional road and bridge, as it's known. It is a subsidized interest program. But the key element is, and I was asked earlier by several council members, is this a program that can be expanded for additional sidewalk consideration beyond this project specific? In answer to that, I presume it could be, all things considered, if approval was in order, but as Mr. Saul has pointed out to me correctly, it must first appear on the Rhode Island Department of Transportation project priority list. That's the first step. So the project has to be assembled, submitted to that list. Approval would have to be gained at that level, put on their list that's published every year. If it's not on that list, even this borrowing could not occur. So in some senses, there is some priority to this and some time of the essence, because we were on that list and we expect and hope that we could take advantage of that project priority list. That is the only way that we can borrow under the road and bridge. It is a revolving fund, so as new loans are made and repaid, the funds go back into that. And it's a program that's operated through Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. We had previously borrowed under Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, Madam Chair, under the committee for your situational awareness in 2020. When the city engaged in its first formal bond borrowing under a formal 5-year CIP plan. At that time, we were anticipating borrowing over $120 million through a general obligation bond. It was brought to our attention that we could borrow under this similar program. So we reduced the bond borrowing to $95 million and borrowed $20 million from the road and bridge program. Working in a better than market rate or subsidizing. That is the only known time that we borrowed under that program for projects worthy of streets, sidewalks, etc. But it is a program that can be done. Again, if a project list was assembled, if it was affordable, if it meets the criteria set forth by Rhode Island Department of Transportation and its engineering studies, etc., etc. But it is labor intensive in the fact that there are multiple steps that must occur before it could even come before this committee for consideration. What's here this evening is the work has been done. Working with the Mile History Association, they have done significant work in educating the community. I trust in educating elected officials. Yes, this project will run through 3 wards. Mr. Saul has prepared a memo addressed to you, Madam Chair, members of your committee. I have additional copies of it. I wouldn't mind submitting it as a document for the consideration.
it actually lays out what I'm explaining to you now and explains the role of the Department of Public Works Engineering. Mr. Saul is the engineering training, but he's nonetheless an engineer working under the auspices of Craig Hoffman. Craig couldn't be here this evening, but he has his full confidence. And he's here to answer technical questions on the project. Ms. Grandy will answer questions associated with bomb borrowing instruments. Our folks from Model History Association will give you some information associated with the project. And I will provide you with information associated with why I'm asking for consideration this evening to subject the documents. So the fact that Ms. Grandy advised me that there may be a possibility that once again, what happened 5 or 7 years ago on a one-time only basis that allowed municipalities to borrow as if it was a bond, without the work of a bond theoretically, but at the benefit of that. With her ability, she drafted a chain, both black line and clean, to show you that with that, to give the authority, if the consideration is granted this evening out of committee and then the full council, to allow us to consider the best of those two programs. If we do meet that criteria, because it's so brand new to the nowadays, then we will be positioned to take advantage of that. Otherwise, we will be before you, we're here seeking the original program. Let me just explain the difference between the two. The original authority that we saw this evening was going to be borrowing 5.5 million for hard asset sidewalk projects. But under that program, the city was required to establish what's known as a debt service amount. The debt service reserve amount, I should say. That amount was 700,000, making the total borrowing $6.2 million. That means 700,000 was sitting in reserve. It's security for loans of this type. Certainly could be used for the final payment if the final payment was equal to or less than that amount, but it must be put in reserve and held as long as the life of the loan is. That added 700,000 to the borrow. If we are able to borrow as if it's a GO, we will not have to put up a debt service reserve. That would spare us the 700,000 of borrowing in advance over the length of the bond, which is 20 years. And it will also earn us some of the additional reduced savings. It was calculated this afternoon by Hilltop Securities on our site, fiscal advisor, that in addition to saving the debt service reserve of 700,000, we will most likely save an additional 150,000 in lifetime interest, again, if we're permitted by the RIB rules to borrow under that so-called general obligation type borrowing versus what was before you originally this evening. So now, this evening, we're seeking your consent and certainly your consideration to give permission to borrow under either or, whichever one is available, certainly the one that best provides the most fiscally astute benefit to borrow, we would borrow to that basis. So I have prepared to Ms. Grandy's office the appropriate substitute documents, if you will. I spoke to the clerk this evening. While they may not be in perfect order in heading, I apologize for that. I believe that they've given me assurance that they could use their wise skills and their ability to do that before this matter. Should we be successful in getting out of the week this evening and get it to the floor. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, members of the council, this is the so-called red line version, and this is the clean version. If you the subsequent changes, Ms. Randy could explain in more detail what they are, as I believe I have offered to you. That's it.
I don't know if I am going to be asking for a motion substitute because it makes sense. Yeah. Whatever we do on this, it makes sense to have the flexibility to have Ms. Randy and Chief Mancini decide which is the most cost efficient. So I'm going to ask for the motion substitute. To substitute.
Second.
Motion to substitute made by Councilor Ingersoll, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. We will mark this as substitution. Is that correct, Madam?
Substitution,
It's
yes.
just a substitution. Okay.
Item.
And then I would also like to mark exhibit 1. I don't know what it is now.
The memo?
I would like to mark as the memorandum from the civil engineer dated 6/16/25. I have a motion. So moved.
Second. Right.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Ingersoll, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. Okay, so we have this exhibit, and now we have. Oh, is this the substitution? Okay, we have the red line and the point, so I appreciate that. Okay. With that said, who would like to Chief, you
So I will continue, I'm not sure, but I do want to have the opportunity, if you may, the privilege of allowing the Milo History Association to at least impress upon the members of this committee. Not only the historical importance of this project, but the actual need for this because of the disrepair and condition of this particular area, along with it would also include repair and replacement of the ADA required improvements as well as pre-wells, where pre-wells have been pretty well damaged. And so if I may, allow them a few minutes of that opportunity, to the end of the list. So.
please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you. Just as a quick background, the Mile of History Association was started in 2017 when a group of 100 dues-paying members decided to form an organization really for the safety and accessibility of a street that has 400 years of documented history, very important history, unbelievably diverse history. Everything began on Benefit Street. So we have been working very hard to preserve and protect the street. And we're very goal oriented. So at the very beginning of the organization, we hired Sarah Bradford Associates landscape architect to draw up a streetscape study. And if I may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
this, if you could take a copy, thank you. This is the work that she did to identify all the areas of the sidewalk that needed help. But we began, our goals are, we wanted to get the street paved. There were huge cracks and potholes. We've achieved that with the help of the city council, neighborhood improvement funds and the mayor and private donations. We were able to restore all of the street lights. And now we're on to tree wells and sidewalks. And the idea is to make the street safe and accessible, not only for the residents, but we get more than 300,000 tourists coming to the street every year. And 40% of those tourists are not Rhode Islanders. So it's an important part of the economy. We're also working on a signage project that will describe to people walking on the street where they are and why it's important. What else, Dan?
Great job.
Sure.
I need to say a few words also. The reason that we're here and you have a small land there, but if you know me, an old city planner, and I love to have posters and illustrations. So this shows one of those plans in obviously heightened form. It shows, where the trees are really breaking up all the sidewalk, causing the sidewalk to be impassable. And how do you fix that? That takes a creative solution. I'm sorry. All these yellow marks here show in this segment here, these are the sidewalks that are not in accordance with ADA standard. They're very difficult to walk on. And then you have some photos as to why. A lot of trees. That's make it crazy. But I'll show you one more because it tells the story of I wouldn't say a typical sidewalk, but a sidewalk that is just, you want to be ashamed of this sidewalk having in the city. It shows where the tree roots come up and break up even the asphalt paving here. Years ago, some brick was laid and that all became disrepaired. It shows where asphalt was put in and even the asphalt is becoming disrepaired. And now you have some drainage problems there. So this is the kind of work that needs to be done. Homeowners on the street, they do the minor repairs themselves, but when you get the major repairs like this, it's just asking too much. And then when you get to trying to work around the trees, you have to build a bump out to bring the sidewalk around the tree. And that takes a lot of, it was wonderful to save the trees, and the city forester loves us for saving all the trees on the street. He's checked them all out, they're all healthy. And so that just gives you some visuals as to why we're doing the project. We've worked very closely with
Tina from RAMP, most of you may know Tina, she's the state's biggest advocate for mobility. She's worked with us from the start, we have a lot of support from her, the Governor's Commission on Disabilities has worked with us. So we're really anxious to really make this sidewalk ADA accessible. We have testimonies in here about people who walk down the street who hurt themselves. I think probably we can give you a photo, evidence of that, bruises and whatnot. You know, a lot of people who won't walk on the sidewalk, particularly people who are starting to approach my age. You know, they don't want to walk on that sidewalk because it's not safe anymore. So we want to make this safe and accessible for all the residents of Providence, for Rhode Island, all the visitors that we get. And then Liz mentioned the tourism importance, critical with the amount of visitors that visit the street, stay in our hotel rooms, go to the restaurants. It drives the hotel tax that the city collects a little bit of that, the restaurant, the use tax, the city collects a little bit of that. So the tourism is also important. And just making it safe and accessible for everyone who wants to visit this magnificent street. We got petitions here, we got letters of support. Here's some more for the record. I only have one copy, but we can put that on the record. That would be great. Any question?
Mr. Baldwin, can you talk about how you, Mile of History got the project on the right project list?
Well, we knocked on as many doors as we could as we developed this project, and that was a door that at least opened us through the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. We talked to RIDOT, but then we approached the Infrastructure Bank, we got excited about the program, and they said, well, let's talk to RIDOT, see what we can do, and RIDOT said, yeah, it's a good project, meets our criteria, let's get it on the list, so I think that's the way it happened. And then just one other thing, with Sarah Bradford, we developed this program with the city engineer, Public Works, city forester, with the residents, with the tourism groups, it took about, probably 3 years, to get everybody to understand the importance of this and to have those design guidelines that will now deliver to the Public Works and if the city approves, to not turn that into a real project.
I just had one more quick question and then I'll open it up, unless I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt the flow of the presentation. Is the intersection of, oh dear, coming down Angel Street?
Yeah, Angel.
Is that intersection? Yes, Angel and Thomas, where the cars going by and end up in the Baptist church backyard. Is that also included in this project?
So that's a separate project with traffic engineering, but we would incorporate those changes into this project as well. So
And would it be made through the bond?
I would have to check whether or not those would be, whether that project has its own funding that would be used in coordination with this one as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is there, I don't want to interrupt the flow.
So only one more point, Madam Chair, members of the committee and members of council. So, as I told you, the program under either method of borrowing, and it's successfully applying from the council. The Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank does permit up to 20 years of repayment at the interest rates that are subsidized by 33% of the market rates, oddly enough, are still stated. For your benefit, if there was no subsidy, if we were borrowing at 4%, 20 years, and we were borrowing the original 6.2 million, which is 5,500,000 of project dollars, and the additional 700,000 of debt service costs. That would be an annual repayment of $450,849. That amount has been included in the debt service line item that is in the mayor's proposed budget. It was factored in with other debt service considerations that we do annually for update. If there was the opportunity to borrow as if it was a general obligation, that would reduce the payment likely down to $405,000. And if the rate was to change between 4 and 3.5%, it could drop it further to $385,000. So there is a clear opportunity that we could save money through this additional option, should that option be verified that we do meet that, we qualify for it. So, but that's the range of dollars that we would need to really taking on a repayment basis.
Okay, Councilor Graves and then Councilor Sanchez.
Okay, these circles, I'm assuming are where the trees are, and you're gonna be trying to bring something into are you gonna be bringing something out into the street? Because the street is very narrow.
Project engineering. So those, we have to finalize the project plan. So we will be working with an engineer to determine whether or not a bump out would be necessary. Expanding the sidewalk into the street any further, or if there was any other treatment that we would pursue in coordination with the city forester to see if there was, you know, I think each of these trees are gonna be kind of looked at on a tree by tree basis as to what treatments are necessary.
Okay, cause I'm looking at the designs. And there would be no street.
At the moment, we've identified 6 trees with the city forester. And those are mostly at the north end where the street widens. So we might be able to accommodate that, but.
Oh, okay, that's one of my biggest problems, because I was saying, you have to be talking to the neighbors, I don't know if they, if they really go for that. And there's very, you know, people park on those streets, and it's already just ridiculous. So that's, you're only identifying 6 out of these hundreds. Yeah. Okay. My I had another one.
We'll come back to you. Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, folks from, my old. Of History Association for coming here. And sharing this project. My first question is to the chief. So the city would be responsible for either 450,000 or 405,000 for the next 20 years. Has a project like this happened before where we partner up with a neighborhood association or a specific group comes to the city and has all this information done already to present, and us go to the infrastructure bank or another external bond partner and do something similar?
Can't state for a fact with the infrastructure bank, like. I'm certain many of you through the award community organizations, they come up with a specific request because some infrastructure item requires immediate recognition, repair, or attention. And that's how the project makes its way to approval, that's included with the CIP. As to the infrastructure bank itself, as I stated in my opening comments, yes, we have borrowed from the infrastructure bank under this program of the Bridget Road. It was 5 years ago, we borrowed on the basically $20 million for streets and sidewalks, and that project was successful in implementing a dedicated sum to that amount. So then it was part of the CIP that was authorized 5 years ago.
So those are led through the city request?
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, that's where honestly I'll have some hesitation, concern. I would, you know, like to see broader scope. Obviously, there's a lot of work in our current CIP. A lot of counselors use ARPA funds for project improvements. I have an email about 15 or 20 different just little patches of sidewalk to get repaired using ARPA funds, and those aren't scheduled to get done until hopefully later this year, and that was submitted back almost more than 2 years ago. So I don't think we have the city capacity to be taking on massive project management. You know, all due respect to our amazing traffic engineering department, I think they do magical work with very limited staffing. But we obviously are difficult budget constraints. I don't even know where the conversation of the tax levy is at the state house. I don't know if you have a live up. It passed the Senate, okay.
Passed the Senate.
While we've been here. Pass that committee.
But all to say that I don't see us, I don't think it's, you know, super wise to be supporting massive projects like this. We're not investing in our in-house team. We're already struggling as it is. And yeah, I mean, this is a very historic street, as has been mentioned. But we have residents in our constituents who've been complaining to us about sidewalk requests for the past 20 years. And they come to us and the answers we have is we're trying our best. We don't have a concrete plan. So before I would support a massive project like this, using city resources, I would like to have a broader plan, that we could share with our neighbors, that not only are we investing millions of dollars in this very historic project, but we also have X, Y, and Z planned for all of our neighborhoods.
Yes, Councilor, you're welcome. Thank you. I have two questions and then some comments. Is that okay? Awesome. The first question is for our engineer who's here. Well, one, thank you guys for being here. It's so nice to see you. I didn't even see you. I just said hi in advance. So it's good to see you. Thank you for being here. But for our engineer, I just wanted to flag, like Councilwoman Anthony did, I've been working with Nate on that intersection where Benefit meets North Main Street, and I know he's doing a project there to because it's chaos, for the traffic there. So I think that also involves an ADA situation with the sidewalk, so I'm just flagging that out loud to coordinate with Nate if you haven't.
Yeah, so I've been in communications with Nate, so that would be, like, this project, I guess, is limited to the sidewalk
Yeah.
and that streetscape, so any changes that we could incorporate easily with, Nate's, traffic revisions.
Yeah.
We'll look into combining those two projects together. Otherwise, that would be a traffic engineering thing in terms of how that is designed and developed. And then if we could, coordinate those construction seasons together, that would obviously be preferable.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just flagging because it's mostly traffic engineering for the lanes there, but I think he said because of the scale of it, there needed to be an ADA compliant ramp up onto the sidewalk. He's adding like a crosswalk and he's added crosswalk if there's no ADA. Anyway, there's a whole thing that Nate will know to explain. So I'm just like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was speaking with him earlier this same intersection.
Oh, great. Oh, perfect. And I was gonna let you guys know that that's happening, but I will follow up. That we're gonna fix that benefit to North Main chaos. Great. Yeah. And then, that was the only question I had. The other thing I just wanna say, I'm really excited about this project. So Benefit is partly in Ward 3, from where it meets North Main Street down to, Meeting Street, only on the west side. Because the Street is complicated. And I had similar questions to Councilman Sanchez when this started. And also, and now really excited about this for a few reasons. One, which Liz already discussed, but, the history and tourism of this neighborhood, can be overstated, and it's all 4 seasons. It's not like it's just around certain times of year. It's at Christmas, it's in the summer. The history that's in Benefit Street, it's literally the first state house. Benefit was the second street in all of Rhode Island, like in all of Providence, right after my beloved North Main Street. Or Main Street actually, but it's accessible to the only national monument in the state of Rhode Island is right down the hill, and the histories are combined between the founding of Rhode Island at Roger Williams National Monument and Benefit Street, all combined there, and it's best experienced on foot, and so the tourism really is dependent on people being able to get around. And I've just also been really impressed by the work MOHA is doing, both themselves investing in the infrastructure, like doing the fundraising themselves to get the new lighting, the fact that they've invested in all of these plans themselves. It hasn't been just a request of the city, it's been a, hey, we know this is a need, we're a partner here. And it really is an extension. I think of this kind of like how we think of downtown and how we all kind of have a stake in downtown. This is similar. This is something that everybody participates in. It's right up from water fires, right up from like so much of the downtown life. All the people from RISD come down, Brown, it's a really big hub in a way that I think people forget because it's so skinny and a little tucked away behind North Main. And I've also just been really impressed by how much adaptive reuse is happening on Benefit Street that I think goes under notice. There are a lot of students who live on Benefit Street. I was just at your event, last week, what is it? But yes, but some of these beautiful old historic homes are now being turned into multifamily housing and apartments, retaining this beautiful character and history, but having many more people able to live inside. So it's just this wonderful vibrant place that I want to make sure that retains its success or these funds more accessible, because that is what drives the tourism, like it's, you need to experience it on foot, you can't just like drive through and really experience it. And if you can't get by, and having door knocked in this neighborhood and just generally walked and enjoyed it, you really can't, in a way that much of the rest of it is feel free, because while our sidewalks are rough, this is by far the worst. So anyway, I had similar concerns and also am really excited and appreciate the persistence, and hard work of the folks from Omaha and moving this forward.
And I'm just going to take a minute also, because we are, this, was put in by Councilor John Gonzalez, and I certainly added my name, Sue has added her name. This spans 3 wards, so we have been working with Mile of History, I have, since I, was first elected in 2019. And I'm amazed at what they've been able to achieve through all the efforts that they have. They formed to preserve this street, and for all the reasons that Councilor Engelball said, it's a tremendous value to the city that it be restored and maintained, and it really is in absolutely horrible shape, the sidewalks. Just think about it, if this was one of the first streets put in, and these are original sidewalks, then it's pretty bad. So I have been nothing but impressed with their ability to organize and position this to be a project that might be funded by the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. When I look at the amount, 6.2 million, I have to say, I think this is, you know, a project that's been long coming. They've expended a lot of their own money, they've fundraised a lot of the money to make this project possible. If we can help them as a city, with this bonding and, have such good rates and things like that, I think this is, and the money is already put aside in this year's budget. And it's not all of the money that is put aside for debt service, there are going to be other projects, we have a CIP meeting next week. The CIP project list is full of all our projects, this one happens to be outside of that CIP, but I don't think it's any different. It's a capital improvement project. And I think I am very, very supportive of this and hope that our council will find their way to approve this, but I don't see this as any other different project, and it is, you know, I know people have, I too had a ton of sidewalks that are leaving, if they have more sidewalks than anyone in the city in terms of mileage. Terrible disrepair, but this one project, they have spearheaded it. It's the one street, that desperately needs that help, and I think if it weren't for them, they wouldn't be here. Even entertaining the ability to possibly restore it, so. Anyway, Councilor Peterson.
Thank you. Can I ask how much was fundraised to be able to do the study and all the work that's been?
This study cost $30,000.
I want to applaud your efforts. I think one of the things that's beautiful about the way the East Side mobilizes to be able to get their efforts done, I think it's something that should be applauded. In an effort to ask for some equity on some of this, though, I would love for you to be able to share in some of this opportunity, and just share with other neighborhoods how well you did this robust opportunity to engage and get all of this done. I would love for Moha to come out into some neighborhoods and say, hey, this is how we did it, this is how we're looking to, this is what we achieved. Obviously, you know, the infrastructure bank is going to be able to afford us multi-$6 million projects, however. One of the things that I think that we all can agree on is the fact that often enough, many of our neighbors, many of our neighborhoods, to the point of Councilman Sanchez, were kind of left without. And I can tell you that a $265,000 expense in ARPA for 10 sidewalks didn't even cover 1% of the projects that I need to be able to do in my neighborhood. And mobility and accessibility is a very important situation for me. I was very moved by Tina's letter, and you know, her call to action and her request on behalf of this project. But it is something that we're all talking about and we're trying to work around, the sidewalks outside of, the sidewalks that need to be replaced that you've all shown, outside of them being cobblestone or, brick are no different in my neighborhood, unfortunately, and it's one of the things that I think I'm probably most upset that I cannot do quicker. It took us 2 years to get these 10 sidewalks done. We're just starting to see that work now, and there are people that absolutely need those. I have a large elderly population in my neighborhood, and trying to find ways to be able to support them in these capacities are things that we're constantly looking for. So if there's an opportunity for you to come out and share with different neighborhoods, just exactly how you'd like this done and how we can mobilize, I would certainly love to invite you to do that, because I think it's not only essential, we're past the point of not trying to figure something out.
But I would be happy to help, and I know Dan would, and we do work very closely with other neighborhood leaders. There's so much going on in the city that it's hard for us to grasp. And so we have a close network of other presidents of neighborhood associations, but I'd be happy to come and talk to anybody. Thank you.
Yes, Council Grace.
I think, we need to address the elephant that's in the room. One of the biggest pushbacks I can see on this is, here we go, all our money's going over to the east side. That's where all the rich folks live, you know. And even though I know, I have a bunch of relatives over there and they are not rich.
East side town.
You know, but that is the mentality of this city. And this area is where people see, oh, the grandiose houses, you know. Yes, the sidewalks are back, but the grandiose houses are still there. I think the only thing, because I'm probably gonna vote for it, but the only, and one of the reasons is because I told the people in my community that I'm gonna go by not only the conditions, but how long these people have been on the list waiting. I know some of those trees have been tearing up the sidewalk for probably much longer than my area. But I think we need to come up with some type of wording besides, oh, well, this is the, you know, where all the tourists go. Well, maybe we don't want the tourists in our area, you know, or whatever. I think you're gonna have to come up with a sell for the rest of the city. I love history. So, you know, you got me with the historical thing. However, the people that are still tripping, because I have a tree that looks just like this one, but really it's bigger than this one right here. That's been sitting there forever, and the forester hasn't even went by to see it yet, let alone do anything with it. And now they're saying, well, wait a minute. They went and did this whole street and they still haven't did this house. We have to show that there's some type of fairness, that there's something that is good. You can put that tourism in, but you also need to put in, well, you know, we understand that this is something that we're fighting for our community, because every community should have a group fighting for their community. But the reason why we've gotten to this point, like Councilwoman Peterson said, is this is what we had to do. Some of our groups might not have the resources that you guys have. So if we can get a think tank and get that together, I think that's what we should do. And we can promote that, but we can also say, hey, this sidewalk's been here since the city's been here. So you've been waiting since 1999. We've been waiting since X, Y, and Z. I don't know if that's gonna pull everybody over, but at least it's a talking point. I don't, when Don approached me about it, I was hesitant. But then I heard the different things and I've read some of the letters. And I can see the point of view, but we need to make this a story that everybody can digest.
Yeah.
You know,
I can't speak for the city, but I can tell you what city leaders have said to me. Which is, and just as background, much of this work was done by volunteers. We have a really passionate group of people who are members of this organization. But city leaders have said that could be a model for the city.
Yeah.
If we can figure out how to apply it in other neighborhoods. Ways to protect the mature trees.
Yeah.
Relaying the sidewalks without having to reinvent the wheel, that kind of thing.
and that's what we need. We need to say, well, we need to join together.
Yes.
This is a pilot program. We're all gonna join together and they are just now starting in our community, like all the rest of my colleagues. We all put in for these sidewalks and the first year we came in and I'm just now seeing a few sidewalks, coming up and I just don't want this to be something that we see right away and they're gonna say, see, they just talked about it and look, their whole street is done. So we just gotta make it seem like it's fair, and equitable for everybody. Because I understand that this is a plus for the city, but people need a plus for their community. They need to feel like they're just as included, and loved and wanted as any other side of town. And like I said, it's not gonna change the fact that people are gonna still look over to the east side and say, well, that's all the rich millionaires, that's where the rich folks are, so of course they're gonna do it for them, but we need to try to make it as, like I said, as equitable as we can. And I don't know how we're gonna do it, but I think while you're thinking about doing this, we need to think about how we're gonna bring it to the rest of the people and all the other districts that all have sidewalks that are being that are torn up. They all have, people that have to go out into the streets because they can't push the car. Probably can't even get some of the trees, off street is this narrow. Even the littlest kids can't get through, that little space to get by it. So everybody goes out in the street or have to go across. And it's a narrow street too, just like this street. So, like I said, I really, I can see it, I can visualize it in my mind, and I think it would be a beautiful thing, but not at the expense of the rest of us.
I'm gonna call on Councilor Taylor because he hasn't spoken.
So I'm going to echo on that and Councilman Sanchez, because obviously I represent the Reservoir Triangle West End, and the sidewalks are a mess over there. And I've got about over 100 that need to be replaced. And I hear it as well. The east side, they get everything they want. Personally, I'd like to see, since it's on the east side, I'd like to see RISD and Brown and them, instead of giving the pilot money, or in addition to giving the pilot money, is to give money to get the sidewalks done. And that way they know exactly where the money's going. I don't have that luxury over the west end. There's no colleges, there's no nothing. But I have a hard time. Voting for this, only because I have so many sidewalks and I hear it all the time. Oh, the east side, the streets get plowed. Ours is a mess over there. Oh, the east side is beautiful. Oh, this is east side. And I say it all the time and I don't mean to.
And I always get mad
And
at
you
you
get
because
mad at
it's
me.
not always true, but.
95% is true. Just
Anyway, we're not gonna fight.
No, but I know you get angry and I don't say it to get you angry, but it's, the east side seems to get a lot more than the west end. Don't know why. I understand, we have, talk about visitors, Elmwood is a historic district just as much. And, yeah, when I was in claims and pending suits for my first term, I just shook my head on all because it was, let's say, 121 benefits. Someone fell down and they broke their leg on a bad sidewalk on February 1st. And on March 1st, someone fell down and broke their knee.
and April first, and I'm like, do we ever fix the sidewalk? How
Yeah.
much money goes, if we look into how much we're spending on all these sidewalks? For lawsuits, we could actually use the money to fix the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So I didn't join claims this year, or this term, because for that reason, I was just very frustrated. But, I don't know, I just wanted to say my piece on that, because the city unfortunately is not all the same. There's 15 districts, and we all want a piece of the pie. And this is like 3 districts getting $6 million, while the other 12 districts aren't getting nothing. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes, Council, are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Councilor
Thank you, Chairwoman. Was this considered to get included into CIP at all? Instead of doing it separate?
I don't know that, the role of city finance was to basically effectuate transaction as best and most efficient. And it's cost efficiently good. So, and finance was asked to assemble necessary financing mechanisms we can allow this just to determine the calendar year. So I don't really know if that's in the CIP.
I asked that because, man, this timing is very awful, and I mean, I feel so bad because you guys have worked so hard, and I'm a big champion of mobility. But just last week, I had to tell a couple of business owners and homeowners that this current fiscal year, they had been marked, their sidewalks in front of their house, to get replaced, and they got told that there's no more CIP funding. It was the blue, if you guys see the DPW sidewalk map that they sent us, the graphics. It was the green was priority and the blue was priority number 2 if funding remains. And these neighbors and business owners, literally down the street where I live, I interact with these folks every day. I had to tell them that there is no more money in the CIP funding for this current year. And to also be raising taxes in this year, I'm sorry, I really just, as much as I would wanna support this, and I understand the historic importance, my neighbors, the constituents that put me in the seat, would eat me up, as bluntly speaking, so. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great if RISD and Brown, paid in the form of community benefits. I know they contribute, but that's not the conversation at hand. But yeah, those are my comments.
Yes,
Councilor.
Councilor Charter.
Thank you. To echo my counselors, I struggle with this, with this, resolution, as, Councilman Goncalves called me, and I always like to see what the details are, what the story behind it. I didn't know what was the story. I also struggle with the budget process that we're going through, and a very difficult one. And I would say this in essence, that the people that brought this before us are people known to me over the years. Obviously, Dan may not illustrate his own resume, but you know, he was the executive director of the Providence Foundation. That really was pivotal in terms of you know, even moving the mall and creating this renaissance that we have also in the city of Providence. Liz, we've known each other, or at least I've known of you and
I think.
through the zoo, and also through the Emu Foundation, as I became more involved with as I got married, and really appreciate the architecture in the city of Providence, but also know how challenging it is to live in a district, historic district, as the Emu Foundation was known for, and over the years couldn't sustain themselves, but now is emerged with other organizations. I was part of that board, and you all also many times have come before us. So I struggled with it, and I want to know a little bit more. I appreciate the architect. I appreciate the Benedict Street and all of the history. And like has been said, I struggled because I know it's needed. I walked the area and just recently have gone through there, and it definitely needs upgrade. And I always wondered why was it that and then my questions would be, why the Preservation Society or Historic District have not really taken any leadership on that. And when I say that, it's also something to ask in a sense, within the institutions there, Brown University, RISD is right, is the neighbor, among other small entities around there. Why not create the like the downtown improvement area? Create a fund or an endowment for that area. So I was taken aback in essence of the request in terms of the $6.5 million. Knowing that even within our communities, we're struggling to meet what was said before in our areas within sidewalk and so forth. And I lived this through for the past 20 years since I've been involved, even 30 years. The people on the mountain, in a sense, of the east side have all the resources, whether they get them or not, but it's known as the people that own the city of Providence by the institutions, and it's not no particular individual. And so at the lower end, the south side, lower South Providence, in the west end, has always struggled to actually catch up and bring in the resources. So I struggle with borrowing or getting and also getting the details now in terms of that this is in addition $450,000 a year, therefore 20 years, $9 million. And so for me, I brought up the issue in terms of when do we get to talk about a more comprehensive plan to address the issues in the communities that need these sidewalks or improvement. And so as I struggle with signing on to this, I appreciate the historical aspect of it, the benefit that it brings to tourism, because that's the big TikTok and memes and Facebook account. When people visit, it draws people to the city of Providence. It draws the traffic. Directly, we see it or we don't. There's not a ticket that we sell. Lately, we've had impact studies from Waterfire, the night industry, all justifying in essence that they bring value to the city, so therefore we must, compensate, which I agree also. But at the same time, we got to struggle in the sense that we have to meet the current budget and the current financial decisions that we have to make, that we all have to pay within our own district. So my question then is, in terms of, is there a plan B if this doesn't go through? And then two, is there any discussion within the institutions, or is there a plan from the society, which is very influential individuals and so forth, that we all engaging the nonprofits in the nearby historic district up there, if they're coming to the table to be able to at least fundraise money, or if there's a match or anything like that. So that's pretty much what I'd like to find out.
I think I understand your question, so forgive me if I don't.
Yeah.
You were talking about Providence Preservation Society being an influential organization.
Oh,
No,
it was part of,
I'm just asking.
yeah, if I may, but
Yes, but since you called it a society, this is the Mild History Association. Are you speaking about some other entity, or I'm just confused?
I was.
Oh.
Because,
okay.
and so my final questions were, I mean, I indicated several organizations, and one of them is obviously the Historical Society, in essence, people that are or could be involved in creating more and bringing more resources to the table. And also their leadership with the Mile Society. And so my last two questions, my questions were pretty much at the end of that is there any discussion with the institutions? Is there any plan B in essence if this doesn't go through? And I mean, this repair has been going on for many years. And has there been any other attempt to actually get that done?
I think the answer to your question just now is we've gone to the city many times over decades asking for help. And it wasn't until the Mile of History Association was formed that we figured out a way to get the city's attention. Rhode Island School of Design is a good neighbor, but they're not a generous neighbor. They have their own problems. Brown has its own problems. You know, everybody's kind of struggling. The Preservation Society is struggling too. But I think the reason that this study was able to be accomplished was that people saw Benefit Street was in just terrible condition and you know, you can't walk in the middle of the street all the time, especially if it's snowy or raining or, you know, you've got to have sidewalks. So, and you have to have street lights. So, just, you know, we're a little grassroots organization, just try to get something good going.
So, my last one was that, is there a plan B?
Just in regards to the universities, I mean, their sidewalks are okay, and they're not big fix without this, so.
That's true.
It's not going to the university.
I'm sorry?
That's part of the plan B is to get other people to invest. No question, but so universities are doing their own sidewalks, they're in good shape. Now, whatever they need to do to bring up the speed.
In, within this?
Yeah, and I don't think they're not listed on there as a problem sign. There may be a little thing here and there that they have to do. University sidewalks. And individual owners are fixing up their sidewalks. They've done it in the last couple of years and going forward. It's mainly those big projects, you know, because of the 30 years of disrepair, because of the utility cuts that have really messed everything up, because of the tree roots that have messed everything up. And the fact that this sidewalk was done, I don't know if there's any city money involved. When was this, Larry? Probably 1970s or 80s. They did the whole sidewalk. That was a long time ago, so it needs to be done again. So what was done back then, some of it's still good, a lot of it isn't. So, plan B, yeah, we're trying to get people to take care of those little problems, but to get the big problems done, this opportunity came up, and you know we could take care of a lot of the major issues. Maybe not even spending all this. You know, I don't know. That could be a plan. We need to take care of the major issues, but we just think it's an opportunity to really do the street right. You know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, did you get an answer?
I did, but let me just, I would say thank you for that. And again, we're all going through some challenges. And as I look at some of the streets that even back then when I was in the EMO Foundation and involved, those streets that people trying to walk or in the sidewalks, again, these are not your issues, but it's our issues that we're going through in our neighborhoods to get to even to a church. Our limited funding that we get, try to address from a senior center going to the park to address those sidewalks. And so we see the need. I see it and I feel it. And I just think that we should also comprehensively as a city council, but also look at what we can do to address those issues. But I also, for the history, my organization, my history is that you have quite a bit of influential individuals within that area that are influential to be able to raise money. And I think that we can be helpful with that too, or however you see it, but it's challenging for me to be supportive of this initiative,
Counselor Esposito.
Chairwoman.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Uh, I hear my colleagues. I also want to say that, I don't think you're gonna find too many counselors that are not in agreement that this repair needs to happen. Whenever, at some point, and that you have done great work, and that it's a tremendous project. I think we all agree on that. And, when the sponsor first spoke to me about this project, I loved it. But there was one concern that I had, and that was the timing, and I expressed that. I said, Councilman, do you realize the financial difficulties that we're under at this point? And you're gonna introduce a project that is going to cost just over $6 million, and that is going to create an additional debt, additional money that we have to come up with on the budget. And so right from the beginning, I questioned the time. I love the project, and I questioned the timing. So, and I think a couple of councilor has brought up the possibility of perhaps the university contributing to this. So my question be for Larry, we did the pilot program agreement with the colleges and universities, and there is a portion of that is towards community benefits. Now, I don't know that that's defined in a way that, that that's detailed in what way that can be used, but that's millions of dollars, and I'm not sure that that's being tapped, or that that's being used, and if it is, I'm not aware of that. But that's probably something, an area that could be looked at. If not, this could be part of a larger master sidewalk plan throughout the city, where I think everyone will be in agreement that, and we hear the different stories about people getting hurt on the sidewalk. I sit on the claims committee, and we always end up having to pay. I don't see why this couldn't be incorporated if we should not go through into a larger plan that we could borrow a lot more money, and then we'll do something citywide. So that, if not, if this is unique and needs to happen right away, it's a beautiful project. Maybe some of the community benefits within the pilot program. Just looking for a solution, it's a good project. But the timing at this time, for me to go back to my ward and say, look, your taxes are going up. If you're a renter, your rent is going up. But yet, we spend over $6 million on sidewalks. It's really difficult for that. It's a, I can say it, I think it's a career-ending move, because people will vote you out. That's how strong this is.
Oh,
So I'll end with that.
thank you, Counselor. Can I just ask one question, and then I'm going to go with Counselor Ingersoll. Are we required to, we don't have a handicap accessible curbs on Benefit, is that correct?
I believe there was a paving project that occurred, might be incorrect in the date, somewhere between 21 and 23. And as part of that, I believe there were repairs made to the curb ramps to bring them into compliance where that paving had been completed.
Can I go ahead and ask Liz, is that?
That was done on the corners, so there are those metal plates that if you're in a wheelchair, you know, there's a metal plate, or if you have a vision problem, you know, you're walking on a different kind of pavement, but there is actually walking with Tina from Ramp pointed out many places where it's impossible for anyone to. And she demonstrated getting out of her van, trying to get onto the sidewalk. And it's, I guess maybe walking the street with us could be helpful. We'd be happy to do that. But it's very difficult.
I know.
Two other quick things I wanted to say. One was, I think, unlike some of my colleagues, I didn't really spend most of my ARPA money on sidewalks. And really put more of it toward like the parks, like mostly the village other parks and Lookout Park, things that many, which no shade on sidewalks. Some like sidewalks are really important investment, but I kind of see this almost like some of those parks investments. I think if it was just sidewalks because people live here. No offense, love the people who live on benefit in my constituents, and also if it's just about constituents living. It would be a different story for me, but this almost feels like a mile-long park. And it's like an extension of the downtown, and that like, people are coming here to recreate, it has a ton of tourism, so like, that's what got me more comfortable with it, it's less like this is a sidewalk project. Which are important and we should do, and I think we should have a comprehensive plan, and I've been a huge advocate, I think we all know, for accessibility and like bike and walkability in the city. But this almost feels like, it's like a, how do we experience, like, how do we help tourists and residents from all parts of the city experience this like history and like tourism in this area, so it less feels like it's just a sidewalk project, and more like, it felt to me more like a parks project, it's not a park, but like, that's how I became okay with it. And I would love for this to be a pilot, because like, I've engaged with RIDOT, it is really hard, so for the fact that they got this on the RIDOT list is pretty stunning. That is not an easy process, working with RIDOT is a slog, I'm sitting on the record, sorry, RIDOT. I love my many friends at RIDOT, some of them work so hard, and once you get on the list, it's like, you can get things moving. But it is hard, it is so hard to engage with RIDOT, and we've done it on West Main Street, it's exciting to see that happen on Benefit Street. It takes like real people power to get RIDOT to like add something to a list. And so like, just squander that by not approving this, like, if they're no longer on the list, this project goes away. And they're one of a few projects that got on that RIDOT list, and if we're fall off that list, that just sucks, like, we would lose out on that opportunity to use this source of funding that we otherwise wouldn't have, so. I really hear my colleagues, I know the optics aren't great, I agree the timing is really poor, and it's also like the time that we can access these bonds, so, and the time that we can be on this whiteout list, and if we lose that, we lose this project and we lose the ability to do this. Which might be a decision people are fine with, and that's a decision you can make. I love that we get like hundreds of thousands of tourists coming to Benefit Street. They also go downtown, they spend money in our restaurants or hotels. They go to Waterfire to buy from our artists. Like, these aren't just East Side residents. So I love East Side residents. Obviously, these are residents of the whole city, and also other people who come here and experience like the history and the culture of Providence, which includes Benefit Street. So that's why I'm excited about it. So, but here are my colleagues. I initially was also skeptical when I thought it was just sidewalks for folks who live on Benefit Street, which is not the most densely populated street, but it really was a lot more than that, so. Chief.
For- yeah. And then, now I can speak.
Chief,
No,
yeah.
Yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
Yeah.
You have any?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So just quickly, again, I'm gonna have a hard time because I've got people that just estimating that the taxes are gonna go up $352 for a two-story house. Not set in stone, could be higher, could be lower. But that sidewalk out front, the neighborhood kids use skateboards on it because it's so in the air, they go over the thing, and they actually came out and put asphalt on it, like 6 years ago. And it's still a mess, the kids are still out there, they think it's cool, like, hey, it's like, we don't have to make a ramp with it, you know? So I have a hard time, and you know, when someone says, or anybody says about Brown, they get their troubles. You know, as of last year, they got a $7.2 billion endowment. They don't have any troubles. We should be going after taxing that money and get some, to try to get something, but you know, it's over there. I mean, I'd like to look at other avenues of Brown Foundation. I mean, the court's over there. Maybe we could ask the state to get money. I know it's a problem, and I know people go there, but I have a hard time. I can't vote for it. I can't, because if I vote for it, then I'm gonna have all those people, if they watch this or see it, they're gonna be calling me and go, oh, you caved to the east side again, you know what I mean? And I just can't do that because they have legitimate problems. They have actually handicapped people. I've got one that has a handicapped person in front of their sidewalk. It probably looks better than Iran and Israel's sidewalk. That's how bad it is. And it's been, since I've been there, and they tell me it's been for 20 years on the list. And there is on the list, we have a list, but unfortunately, when they did the CIP, I did all the streets on Cranston Street for the businesses. So I just couldn't, there's no time, I either gotta do a soccer field, get the kids off the street, or do one person sidewalk. I just can't do that, so. I just wanna put that out there, that Brown isn't hurting. When someone says to me, anybody get a $7.2 billion endowment, I don't think that hurts.
So, Madam Chair, members of the committee and council, this is just my observation, the information that I work with regularly, the point that Councilman Handler made about this being a project that made it to the Department of Transportation. Priorities. That is a time-consuming, all-inclusive process that does not come easy. With that said, I heard many of the council members speak about whether or not fairness or otherwise based on a certain area of the city. But I should at least remind all of you that the CIP is the proper process for bonding. And I should remind you further that based on the current CIP that was approved, nearly $353 million of projects that were accepted by the council. There was provisions for sidewalks included. Bear in mind that we borrowed only $135 million last August, with expectation that there will be 2 additional borrowing tranches to complete all $353 million of project that was approved by the council. In working with the administration and the debt service capacity and repayment ability, all things considered, this budget included and the tax considerations included, is expected to develop a borrowing plan that if it was kept on track, 2 additional $100 million bond borrowings over the next 1 year or 3 years, depending upon the preference. Why is that important? Because you can't borrow $6 million in a general obligation bond. It is not efficient. Between the cost of issuance, the time consumption, we don't go out to bond for $6 million. And Ms. Grandy told me today to say that there is that provision, like a general obligation bond. My first question is, are we bonding or are we borrowing ordinarily? Ordinarily, but like a bond. Typically, there's a minimum size to bond. And that's why when we priced it last year, we took down the first 135 million. You can't borrow any more efficient than at that level, if you will. And how did we borrow last year? We borrowed at just that or below 4%. So I say that for the record because that point is not missed on the city finance department, that borrowing, when a borrowing opportunity is present and doesn't take advantage of it. And for me, it doesn't have any preference over which neighborhood of the city. Does it tug at my heart that this is a project that has worked well, like every project? Yes. One that is in the desperate repair? Yes. One that provides an economic benefit, not just historical? Yes, but speaking strictly from a finance perspective, I don't think you're gonna borrow ever again at 5 million or 6 million for just sidewalks. One of the councils here said it alone that 1 million or 5 million only covers a certain degree, a certain number of linear feet or mileage in sidewalk replacement. You would have to borrow nearly 150 million alone in sidewalks only, if you wanted to be fair, by giving 10 million per ward, if you will, over some issue. That would come before the council. The council thought that, and I don't mean to say this facetiously, that that's what the needs are. And in 2 years, if that's the debt capacity that was considered, so be it. But I say that only for the record, because it prompted my mind to say that it is a difficult pursuit to get on that project priority list, to borrow at a reduced rate over favorable terms. While the 450,000 might intimidate some, trust me, that is efficient borrowing that was already factored into the proposed budget when the budget was filed, notwithstanding tax rates and tax consideration. And it kept the line item for debt service. We haven't spent more than 71 million in debt service in the last 5 budgets, and it's predicted that it will remain the same in the next 2 or 3 budgets. All things considered, including the bond borrowing that was done last week. Why? Because we borrow efficient. We borrow in the market, and the market dictates the best terms to borrow. So I leave you with that, but certainly don't make the decision for council members.
Yes.
So I'm gonna disagree with it because, there's a lot of moving parts here. So we have taxes are going up because we owe the school department $15 million. Big thing. We don't know if we don't know if we're gonna go up high enough this year on taxes. We might have to come back next year and go up on taxes because we're still gonna owe another $15 million. We don't know if we have it. Number 1. 2, we got that big roller in the house of the unfunded pension liability, which I heard the same speech. We gotta do this, we gotta do this, we gotta do it. We missed the boat, no fault of the finance, but fault of the administration at that time. We missed the boat, but we still got that unfunded liability. And it's just so much to say for me to go back and say, yep, I voted for $6 million. And I say it to people all the time, and I'm not blaming anybody, but I feel this in my heart, because I worked for the city for 28 years. And everything I heard on the fire department, I said, oh my God, this is really bad. We were bad 28 years ago, well, 35 years ago now. And I'm like, wow, really? And then I get on the city side, and it's true, like half the stuff, it's like, well, what are we doing here? And I say to myself, and I'm saying it now on the record, that someone like Warren Buffett or someone that invests in it, if they ever came in and heard where we were in the city, I think I'm just hypothetically, they'd say, you know what? You gotta file for bankruptcy because you're never getting out of this hole. And I feel that every time, I know we've had the meetings last time, I questioned about different positions that we were hiring, you know what I mean, for different departments. And here we are this year, we're down $15 million, you know, and I brought up, you know, and then it's just, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but it's just like, I'm concerned about the city. I'm concerned, and then throwing $6 million, I'm not saying it's not worth it. It is worth it, you need to get the sidewalks fixed. But unfortunately, like I said, there's 15 pieces of the pie, and I'm not getting it. He's not getting it, he's not getting it, he's not getting it. The east side's gonna get it, and I don't mean to keep saying the east side, like, she brought it up, to blame her, she brought it up. But, I feel we're in trouble, and it's like, at some point in time, we gotta put the brakes on and say, let's slow down a little bit, stop, let's reevaluate next year, because we spent 9 million this year, let's say 6 million on this. Now, next year comes back, geez, we're 8 million short again, because we owe 15 million to the school, and the schools have like falling apart. So it's like, it's just, like I said, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I cannot vote for it, and I apologize for being like.
I'm just gonna interject, thank you. Also, I'm just gonna say, I also consider this to be a city park. I do not spend my funds on my sidewalks either, and as I said, I've got probably as long a list as anyone. You know, have thought, unfortunately, that using our NEF and our other funds, and now we have some funding coming in, another tranche through CIP, which I think is the right way of doing this. But I too would not spend my money on sidewalks, because I have also done others. And I think this is a city park, and I'm just gonna say 6.2 million, I realize that we do bond. I trust our finance team to tell us what's an efficient bonding mechanism, what are good rates. It doesn't sound like this vehicle is available for other big projects, and the big tranches that we have are in the CIP, and we'll wait until we have a big tranche of money to apply to those CIP projects. Yes, this isn't on the site CIP, maybe it should have been, maybe it would, I don't know what to say, but this is a small project, relatively speaking. We can afford to bond it, it doesn't stretch our budget at all. And I'm very supportive of it. So, Councilor Smith, yes.
Thank you. I mean, my opinion isn't gonna change on this. I mean, that's like the harsh truth. I mean, I'm really sorry, like I said earlier, but we've spent the last month and a half examining every department, and the mayor's proposed budget has this supposedly in it, but what doesn't it have? It has a cut to programming at rec, it has a cut to the sustainability position. And in my opinion, 450,000 or 405,000 in a budget where we dictate anywhere from 22 to 30 million, that's not legally obligated or contractual obligations, does have a significant impact on our priorities and finances. So yeah, I mean, I just want to reiterate that just the timing of it is awful. The optics of not including it in CIP, and I don't know if that has been fully explored. But yeah, I mean, this is, in my opinion, a very dangerous slope, and it intentionally or unintentionally reiterates the rumors of the east side getting resources when other neighborhoods doesn't. And I know I've spent time on the east side, and sidewalks are just as bad. But when we do specific projects that benefit a specific street, that has a lot of resources and wealth. And we know the sidewalks are in terrible shape, but we also know the poverty rates are some of the highest or lowest, whatever way you want to look at it, in these specific neighborhoods. And it does have institutions like Brown University and RISD that do have access to capital and billions of dollars. And as a finance member, I'm concerned on the additional financial obligations that the city has taken on. I voiced it to the police academy that we're bringing on this year. We obviously know the importance of these expenses, but we're gonna get to a point, and that's where I tell everyone that we're just not gonna be able to pay our bills, and to add something that, in my opinion, I didn't even know about it. John Gongoff didn't call me and say anything. I didn't know about this till today at 7 o'clock. But I already have been putting the pieces together and have my knowledge of the current situation of our finances. It would be hugely irresponsible and a big slap in the face to the people that elected me to support this. And I do apologize for having that position, but that's the position that my neighbors would want me to have.
Okay, with that, I think we've discussed this.
I just have a
There's
question.
Something new, I think. Counselor Pichardo, you take a long time to ask your questions. If it could be a concise question that can be answered quickly, that would be great.
But I think that's okay if I'm trying to make the point too, so that way there's a preamble, at least people could try to understand it. That's my position in a
Well,
sense. But thank you.
Please, we have been at
Sure.
it for a while. Thank you.
Sure. This is for finance director. Is there any other resources or funds provided by RIDA?
That's basically what.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Chair, I would like to let you know that I have a project that I have been asking for, actually it's before me. That has been presented to RIDA and we have not been approved, and it's a safety issue in my neighborhood, so. I understand how difficult it is to get to the point of being actually accepted through RIDA or any. For a project, it's very, very time consuming. Like I said, mine has a traffic study that is now needs to be redone because it's 5 years old. So I can empathize with this part of it, simply because of how long it takes for something to be approved through RIDA.
Yeah. And I know it and I realize that, and that's why it's the struggle. I haven't taken the total position of like, no, but it's very difficult. That's why, in a sense, say in essence of all the work that's been done, but also coming up with a plan B on this. Thank you.
Okay, with that, yes, Counselor Graves.
We're talking how many years on this?
Well, we selected, the efficiency and the impact of budget in any budget season. Bear in mind, when finance was asked to consider this. That was at the turn of the calendar year, so we had not yet even finished, sufficient budget. But you could borrow 10 years or 15 or 20 years, obviously, that would increase the payment, the shorter the term, or anyhow. The shorter the term, the higher the payment. And we thought it would be advantageous, particularly with the lower interest rates that would subsidize, that it would make sense to borrow for a longer term, like H1 did. So we selected that term, and again, we're not even at the application formality stage. It first requires authority of government before we can make the formal application. While everybody's on reserve, there has not yet been official submission. Obviously, this month.
I think one of the things that we have been struggling with as a council, putting things in place that those 20, 30, 40 years. That our decisions were going so far in advance, and we found out that the people that came before us did that, and it ended up biting us in the rear. I am one that, I don't believe in trying to do anything that's gonna just not fall out of my plate, and now it's gonna be on by the next generation plate, and the next generation plate, and the next generation plate. I had said that I would, consider it, but I didn't realize it was gonna be 40 years, and I didn't really understand. I mean, 20 years, but, and I really didn't, 20 years sounds a lot better than 40.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, okay. But also, I didn't realize the amount, so tonight too. I would love to say yes, and I usually try to vote something out so that all 15 people can vote on something, but there's a pretty big majority of us here today. So I feel I'm not gonna be able to vote.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Are there any more discussion?
I'll make a motion to not approve.
To not approve, or just
We need to
to,
deny.
Yeah,
To deny.
And then
yeah.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay. I was thinking that we could have done like we did the other thing, and passed it out with no recommendation.
Well,
If
we
you
can
want
do-
everybody to talk about it. I already seen
This is second, so if the motion fails, then you can make a new motion.
Madam Chair, if I may, I don't think about your deliberation, but the Councilman Graves one. 20 years is a long time in any endeavor. But it's common in the world of finance.
I know.
It'll span more than one administration to council to mayor. But if you were to shorten that,
It was
as
much
it's 5
more.
years, your payment would go back to $1 million a year. We did not think that was prudent under any condition, even before the mayor's budget was completed for submission. And it was a finance recommendation that this would be the way to go if this project merited approval of council. And simply, what we do every day, we do finance.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
I'm gonna leave my second in, because I'm just going by the, I'm reading the room here, and it doesn't seem like everybody's hunky dory on it, so. We waste more time and bring it out to the thing, and we're gonna talk about it at another meeting or.
Well, it's gonna.
On the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda, right.
So we can have a.
So, do we want to call a roll, because we're seem to be divided here, we have a motion to not deny, made by Councilman Taylor, seconded by, oh, I'm sorry, made by Councilor Sanchez, seconded by Councilor Taylor. We can just do a voice vote or a roll call. Could we do roll?
I would do a roll call.
Chairwoman Anthony,
Nay.
Vice Chairman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilor Andujar,
Nay.
Councilwoman Graves,
Aye.
Councilor Sanchez.
Aye.
Okay, it's going to be referred to council with a recommendation to deny. Thank you all very much for participating.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry.
Is that it?
Adjourned.
Second.
Adjourned by Councilor, seconded by Councilor Taylor.
Madam Chair.
Aye.
Because it was denied, it's still moved to the floor.
Yes.
Yeah, still go to.
Still doing it.
The recommendation was to deny.
It's
Is
just-
that the motion?
Yeah.
I thought. Just to be clear. Okay.
Uh,
Thank you all.
Yeah.